Hi, everybody. Welcome to this week's episode of the 21st Century Underground podcast. This is a podcast devoted to all things creative, entertainment, culture, art, and so on and so forth. I'm Salvatore Arnaldo. I'm the writer of the group, and with me, as always,
Brand Salas, the filmmaker.
I'm Mike Villarreal, the audio producer guy.
And as a podcast devoted to art, entertainment, culture, what have you, creativity, all those things on an independent level, we decided to do an episode where we would just have an appreciation episode, basically, for a specific medium. We actually want to do a couple of these. We were thinking we had a couple ideas we were kicking around. Film.
Yeah, the obvious ones, like, you know, everything that there are three little main genres of
the big three:
music, film, literature. Mm-hmm. But then, like, breaking it off and just.
We thought about video. Me and Brandon talked about video games actually right before we turned on the podcast. We thought that might be a good. Yeah, that'd be a good one, right? It would kind of shake things up, I feel like. So yeah, look forward to that in the future. But today's episode is music, which is a really deep and interesting topic, I think, because almost everyone listens to it on some level or likes some kind of music, and
for many different reasons.
Exactly, and it resonates very deeply with people just because of the way, I don't know, the way sound, just sort of like the way that kind of people process sound and the way, I don't know, harmony and just those different things, they sort of like, it's like they correspond with just like a fundamental pattern or framework in the human brain. So it's like, it's just, I don't know, it's like a big thing for a lot of people. It really affects them on a deep level.
I find that both like fascinating and intimidating. Like for myself personally, I can never imagine like getting the music, because like the fact that it's just, it can be so polarizing. Someone can absolutely be like obsessed with a song and the other person can just absolutely hate it.
Yeah.
I don't know. That just seems like too much.
It's exactly like film and writing, though. It's like the same thing. You know, it's like, you're using a pattern, and there's definitely like a structure to it that appeals to people. Like I don't know. It's like, because you have like, you know, reading music and you have sheet music, and it's like, I don't know, there's like a certain formula or way in which it's done that kind of, I don't know, like really like seems to affect people. It seems to make sense to them. And writing is the same way, and so is a film. You know what I mean? You're trying to put images in an order according to a sort of formula that kind of follows a certain law that just seems fundamental to people and to the way their minds work. And so it's interesting. I don't know. And then you have all different kinds of films and all different kinds of literature and all different kinds of music that different people like. You know,
when it comes to classical music, though, it's exactly what you just said. But jazz is not formulaic.
Yeah.
It's more like free. But one thing I want to add to what you're saying, what music does to people, is it's like, it's almost an addition to what your personality is. You can really tell who someone is by what they listen to,
right?
And how they act and what they feel and all that stuff. It's like a personality trait.
It is really, because it has like a profound impact on like your mood. You know what I mean? Like the ideas, like concepts, like musical concepts. I feel like musical concepts, like different kinds of music, like jazz or classical music, will appeal to people who don't even have a knowledge or understanding of music, but like their personality may be more free and kind of expressive, so they might be more into jazz, you know what I mean? Or whereas someone who's, I don't know, maybe has a slightly more formal or ordered personality might be into classical. I mean, these are broad generalizations, obviously. But like you can kind of correspond to it, like punk rock, for example, where it's just like, you know what I mean? Like where it's very simple and very kind of fast paced. You know, that could be more in line with your personality, or hip hop. You know, so it's interesting. It's a very interesting subject, and we're gonna dive right into it.
Yes.
Yeah, and we're gonna tell you about our history with music, the things that we grew up liking, like how we got into it, how we feel about it, and then also things that we're into right now. And we're gonna kind of just pass the ball around as a group here.
Yeah, we're just gonna give that music the sweet, sweet love that it deserves.
Yes, we will. Yeah. This is the music episode. Also, Moby.
Moby.
I'm just gonna say Moby right now, so that it's already out there.
I guess
he's gonna.
If I'm starting, it's gonna be a lot of Moby.
Okay,
No.
Yeah, no, I like how I say that as though the reference isn't going to come up, and I just want to plan it in the episode. Go on, Brandon.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I got into music if we're going to the beginning, it took me my early days. For some reason, I was kind of stubborn. I don't know what got me into this. I'm not sure if I saw this in a TV show, but I was trying not to like my parents' music for whatever reason. Like, and I'm talking about really young. This is like literally ages 4 to about 6.5, 7. I don't know why, but I was even though I internally enjoy the music, I'd be like kind of like, yeah, I'd be like, oh no, I don't like this song. I don't know. I was being a punk little kid, and those barriers that were slowly starting to break came down mostly when I was like 5 and 6, especially 6. So my music kind of comes with a little bit of a background of my life. So as many of you who don't know, long story short, to get to the point really quickly, I don't know my real father, and then my mom, it was just me and my mom for my first 6 years, and then I had a really close knit with my grandparents and my aunts and uncle. And then moving forward, my mom met my dad, who I consider my dad, the person who, while not being my biological father, to me is through and through my father. Met him, they got married, and then that was like age 5, and then age 6 was this year that we moved from New Mexico to California. And this year was I'm not sure if maybe scientifically, maybe someone can comment on below, but I felt like it must be, just because that year for me was so impactful. I feel like my senses were like hardcore developing that year.
How old were you?
6.
6. Well, they say between the ages of like 3 and 7, I think those are the most like psychologically formative years of your life. Apparently,
6 was like a fucking like, though, like that one very specifically. I have my most intense smell memories, like my music memories. A lot of these early formative things of my different senses. I have the most nostalgic or most connections to that one year in California. And that year was important to me in a lot of ways. That was a year that, I bonded with this man who'd become my father. And how that kind of leads to the story is he is sort of my really early entryway to music. He was the first time I was really starting to let myself break down some of those barriers. And I was still being kind of stubborn, but I was kind of like, we had this thing where he'd know that I was enjoying a song, and it'd become our song. And I'd still be kind of acting stubborn about it. I'm like, no, I don't like this song. But like my foot would literally be tapping in the car as we're driving somewhere. And
so you just went against it just to go against it.
Again, I'm not sure if I saw it in a cartoon or something that you don't like the broccoli thing. I feel like it was that kind of mentality. I saw it somewhere and I was like, yeah, I don't like my parents' music.
did the exact opposite, actually. It's funny too you mentioned that, because I remember being a little kid and just always watching. And when I was a teenager, it became kind of a problem for my parents at points. But I remember seeing like just angsty teenagers on TV when I was like 3 or 4. And how they're just always giving their parents shit and being assholes and stuff. And I remember when I was like a really little kid, I was like, fuck them, man. Like, what's going on here? Like, I didn't understand. I was like, why are they being
You were saying fuck them to Brandon.
Yeah, no, I guess so, yeah. I was like,
well, it wasn't angsty.
Pieces of shit. Well, no, I'm talking I saw like crazy.
I was
just
totally
like,
relate to Brandon, though.
Yeah.
So the first song for me was the that got me, like, I guess that during that phase where the first song that I truly kind of broke on. During this time, there was a lot of music that was coming through. You can find that I do like a lot of these certain kind of pop stars from this time period. I do like a little bit of Madonna, very specifically this late 90s, early 2000s Madonna, because my parents were very into them, and that was something I was hearing a lot. And then also at the same time, I was listening to like Enter Sandman, and that era of Metallica, and this whole slew of songs.
Is that only good, Metallica?
Yeah, you're right.
And then Santana, because that was like right after his Gold album came out. So I was having all these songs, and now like they're like classic favorites of mine. But the first song that broke me, that I was like, oh man, it became me and my dad's song. So much so that one Father's Day, about let's see here, 7 years later, I made this whole compilation video on my Windows Movie Maker of a bunch of pictures, and then of us together in the song.
Mm-hmm. Aw, you're gonna make me cry.
I made him cry.
I remember that. I remember when you made that. I was there.
Did you cry?
I was not really, but I mean, like, it seemed really sentimental to Brandon.
Like, you're like, I respect you.
Yeah, I respected what he was going through.
I don't like you, Sal.
That's I don't like me.
But the song is
I'm just joking.
The song is "Take a Picture" by Filter. So if you don't know that song, go check that song out. It's a pleasant little song. It's like perfectly of that time period.
How's it go again?
It was like,
I was just singing to them. So, oh yeah, awake on my airplane, awake on my airplane. My skin is bare. My skin is bare. Yeah, that's all you're ever getting.
I didn't think you were actually gonna do it.
I did it.
Fuck with that.
They're gonna laugh at my horrible whatever. It's gonna be it's live.
I'm gonna sample you.
I've sung a couple times on this podcast.
That song, I don't know.
It's always about you, Hunter.
Yeah, I guess so.
That song was like, I don't know, that got to me. It became our song. We were like, every time we listened to the radio, we'd be singing together. That was like the first one that got through to me. And that was like my crumbling point where I stopped putting up the whole facade.
He broke down your walls and he got in.
Yeah, he got in.
Yeah.
And again, like I said, that time period was just a huge development period. All those songs definitely bring me back to California. If I listen to Ray of Light by Madonna, I just think about driving on the highway to Carmel. And the funny thing is, I literally only lived in that state in Gilroy for 1 year.
I have a total
such an impactful year.
I have an exact analog for that exact same period of time. I was actually the same age too.
Oh, from
so
Richardson.
yeah, totally. That's kind of weird actually. I didn't realize I was the exact same age during that time.
That is interesting.
Yeah, right. I had the same experience too. Like my senses felt like they came alive. I'll talk about it when I get there. Yeah, but go ahead.
So that was like the kickoff point, and I started getting a little bit more into music. I was open into it. I remember my first 2 CDs for whatever reason. Well, okay, my first CD was actually Queen's Greatest Hits. I can't remember who gave that to me. It was like more of this offhanded gift, and then was
it already open, or like was it a fresh CD?
I think it was a fresh. It was a best of fresh collection.
Nice.
And I was like, ooh.
I used to put that into my parents' stereo system at home.
Yeah.
That was one of the ones that I picked out and I remembered because I knew the songs from like Wayne's World and then like We Will Rock You from a bunch of different movies, and I always wanted to put in Bohemian Rhapsody. So I figured out how to use the stereo system as like a 4-year-old and put that specific disc in.
Hell yeah.
And then the another, ironically enough, an early CD of mine that I developed, I started listening to a lot was my mom. For the longest time had this. She used to work out on the treadmill, and one of her album selections was this one. It was called Pulse Greatest Hits. Like it was like
DDR Max type shit.
It really was. It was like all these club bangers from the 90s. It was like 2 discs.
Please don't go.
Yeah, Please Don't Go.
Oh god.
Rhythm of the Night.
Yeah, Rhythm of the Night. That's
Rhythm
what
of
it
the
was.
Night.
This is the yeah, right.
The current they sampled that
Oh,
song
again.
currently.
They sampled it again.
Again.
That's how good that song is. But I used to listen to that song in the gym. My mom was, well, not gym. The room my mom's treadmill was in, I'd play it over and over
I
again.
still listen to that shit at the gym.
And so those were like the first few CDs. Oh, and then also, I don't know. I'm not saying this because I'm trying to defend myself. I was like, my sister offhandedly was like, I don't want this Britney Spears CD. And I was just like, the idea of owning another CD, I was like, yes. And I was like, oh. So I owned it technically for the longest time.
Nice.
But
Was that your second one?
It was like
No, the third one.
second. No,
Which
that was
one was
technically the second one I owned. Pulse I didn't own.
Which one
Oh,
was
okay,
it?
that was your mom's.
It was the oops, I did it again.
Really? My brother had that. My older brother had
Yeah.
it. I remember vividly the and it's like the schoolgirl kind of like
Yeah,
cover.
yeah.
Yeah, he totally had that one.
Blue.
I didn't I hardly listened to that one, honestly.
Yeah.
And again, I'm not trying to say that to come off in defense of myself. Like, as far again, I'll tell you all day how much I love Madonna, ABBA,
Yeah.
and all those things.
Can't stop him telling me how much you love Madonna and ABBA.
Oh man, don't even get me started on early Gwen Stefani when she's part of No Doubt. Yes, please. Late Gwen Stefani, nah.
Me like it all.
And so that became like a roller coaster. The first band I was into was I had this whole experience with my dad, and then ironically enough, to flip the switch to my first band, it was my mom. We took a road trip to go to New Mexico. I had to be 7 latest. It had to be 7. Honestly, I would be surprised if it was 8. We took a road trip. This is when we lived in Texas, because again, I only lived out in California for a year. We were living in Texas. We were taking a road trip back to New Mexico to go see family, and it was just me and mom. And we put on we grabbed a bunch of CDs, and one of the ones a bunch we grabbed was AC/DC ones. My mom was really into AC/DC when she was younger, and she was a big part of that whole phase. And so we started playing those songs, and during that road trip, we had a huge bonding experience. I played the crap out of them. We were singing at the top of our lungs, blasting it, because I started memorizing songs by the end of the road trip. We were like literally singing like, I have big balls, you have big balls, but we got the biggest. Yeah, like all of it together. And I became really big into AC/DC. That was like my first true favorite band.
I remember as a little kid, your mom explaining the big balls illusion to me. It's like for the men, it's like their balls, and then like the women, it's like their boobs. And I was like, yeah, no, I get it.
And so that was like the first big band, and I just got springboard off of a whole bunch of like more classic music, classic rock. I mean, like listening from anything from Santana to AC/DC, a whole hodgepodge, mostly whatever my parents kind of listened to, and then my dad had a collection he had of MP3s on the computer, and slowly but surely I would start to explore that, because he had a huge collection, like all the CDs he ever owned, he ended up putting on the computer, and it became like a nice big old fat library of all the songs, and that became the direction I ended up exploring really started developing my music. And from there, I think my next biggest checkpoint would probably have to be, I got really into 80s music.
Yeah.
I think that was, as far as by choice and not really having an outside influence on me, that was my first like big set of music I really got into. 80. Like,
What's the first artist that comes to you?
80s?
Yeah.
I guess right off the top of my mind, I guess Tears for Fears came first.
Sweet.
But I listened to a whole bunch of it. Like, it ranged from new wave 80s to poppy 80s to a little bit of the rock 80s. I was just all over the fucking. I don't know. All of that I really enjoyed. I had Salvatore will tell you that I had a massive 80s playlist.
Yeah, that was like his thing.
Yeah, it was the 80s. Like, it was a really good 80s playlist.
We played a lot of Grand Theft Auto Vice City too.
Yeah,
fed into it. Yeah.
And I guess for those who don't know, Salvatore and I have been friends since literally.
Yeah, I guess we didn't really specify that. Me and Brandon have known each other since like 4th grade.
He does have a right to make comments a lot here.
yeah. Unlike usual, but like in the usual run of things, it's very rude. But here I actually have some context.
This was my dad's massive pile of playlist. Was the first time that I was introduced to Moby. The song Porcelain was on there.
Really?
Yes.
Your dad.
Yeah. Well, I mean, let Salvatore talk to you about that.
Yeah, my dad liked him a lot too.
But Porcelain was like the one song that was on the playlist because little did I know that my dad downloaded music illegally. I didn't know
illegally?
That. Yeah.
Really? Hell yeah.
Seriously?
Well, he one day I was like, man, Dad, I want this song. How do I think it was actually something simple. I think it was like Thriller. I think that's what it was. It was Thriller. I was like, I want Thriller. How do we get Thriller? And he's like, oh, here, just go onto this thing. It was called like Aries. It wasn't a bigger one.
That was one of the
earlier ones. It was called Aries. And I don't know. It was like Aries X or something. I don't know. But anyways, he's like, oh yeah, just open this. Anytime you want a song, just open this up, type it in, and find a download and download it. And I was like, oh wow, that's amazing. That's a great.
That's so simple.
It's so easy and great. It wasn't until like years later I was like, oh, and I started doing it myself with like the newer stuff because Aries.
LimeWire.
Aries. Oh yeah, I did LimeWire.
LimeWire.
I think I did LimeWire. I don't think I did any. I didn't do Pirate Bay or anything like that. Yeah. I did LimeWire for a good hot minute.
Pirate Bay is some hardcore shit.
I got off of it.
A lot of teenagers did LimeWire. Pirate Bay is when you went into the real heart of darkness.
And but yeah, that's when I started slowly growing my own music collection. And Salvatore would come over and be like, "Oh man, this song, this song, this song." I'm like, "What do you mean this song, this song, this song?" And then we just.
Oh yeah. No, I started bringing CDs. Didn't I lent you a lot of CDs too?
Yeah, you brought CDs.
Joy Division and Lost Highway. I mean, that was later, but
one of the first CDs I feel like I remember you ever really bringing was that Korn CD.
It was like 6th grade.
Yeah,
I got that from my brother for sure.
Yeah, it was. He had I can't even tell you which album it was.
It was.
How does it look like?
Oh god,
is it gray, silver?
I can't remember exactly. I know the one with the hopscotch off the cliff.
Yeah,
was one of them. But that was just one. There was like 2 or 3. I remember Right Now was on there. Adidas was on there. I know one of them had to be a greatest hits, but I know there were a couple albums mixed in there too.
I don't know. But anyways, so I had a tiny bit of Korn introduced to myself, and that I would.
We used to listen to it while we were playing Halo 2.
Oh yeah.
And we only had the one CD player, so somebody would be plugged into the music while they were playing Halo 2, and we just take turns listening to Korn, just like
yeah. We started listening
fucking Ghost.
A lot of music while we're doing other tasks. Listening to music while doing something else is a very common thing. So anyways, 80s playlist that really blew up. That was such a cornerstone of my music foundation. It really was. That became truly where the rest of my music taste would be based off of. Because truthfully, now I really don't listen as much AC/DC. I like AC/DC, but I like in much smaller doses. Like I like okay, that was fun. I'm like that's enough. For me, I guess to kind of get to a little bit of a bigger point, what I love about music, for me, what makes me connect to music and just gets me going, I have a hard time understanding lyrics. I heard that actually there's a name for that when you can't understand lyrics, or it's also when you're in a crowd, like if you're at a really overpopulated bar and it's really loud, you have a hard time understanding the person in front of you, and everybody else can understand that person.
Really? There's like a thing.
It's a thing. I barely just found this out.
I thought it was just.
I have a hard time. I won't lie to you. I'll probably nod to you and just smile. I cannot understand most of the shit you're saying. Probably. I have to like.
No wonder we were having really wings that one time. And I kept having to repeat myself. Remember that one time?
It's a thing. And it's hard for me to pick out words when it's a whole bunch of noise.
Oh, okay.
So I have a hard time picking out lyrics. That doesn't mean I dislike music. And if anything, I think that's helped empower my music taste. I have a huge variety. I guess I'd sort of glance this over. One of those early influences I had, my grandpa, my aunts, my other aunts, they all listened, even my mom, listened to a lot of different older Spanish music. Mexican music very specifically, and that became also a huge nostalgic part of my, and even something I continuously listen to today. And even though I'm not fluent in Spanish, I only know, I'm like broken Spanish. I love that. I love that music. I love even if I can't understand a single word in a song, I can still really love a song. And I have a lot of that for a bunch of different types of languages. I don't think you need to know lyrics to enjoy music. For me, it's all about the emotion and the intent in the music, the melody, the instruments, everything behind it.
I absolutely agree with that.
Yeah.
I've been listening to like German pop music and stuff lately, and it still translates.
Yeah. You don't need no lyrics. I mean, I hate when people say that, like, oh, I can't. How can you listen to it? You don't understand it.
Right.
For me, it's so like lyrics are cool. And I love especially when there's really great lyrics.
I love lyrics. Like I love good lyricists. Like I like, Tom Waits a lot because he has that aspect where there's like a character and his music is almost theatrical and there's like you can understand the lyrics and that's like a big part of it, or like hip hop, but like I don't need it. It's like just a different thing. You can have a different I don't know.
I like, obviously, especially a good chorus, because choruses are the one thing I can't understand. I can get a chorus, don't worry, but I can always get a good chorus, and then everything else falls apart. The verses, I'm like, there's only like one song I fully memorized, and it's like literally a Weird Al song. So.
Out of anyone,
I thought you were gonna be like, I get knocked down, I can't get up.
To be fair, take a Picture by Filter is a song that I can actually, if you play it, I can sing that one all the way through. But my point is, I really like these things are more on the cerebral end. There's more synthy. There's certain energy that's not necessarily high. Well, it can be high energy. I do like a lot of high energy music too, but I like it. That's also. I feel like the best way for me to describe it, and maybe Mike can help give me some vernacular here, but like literally feels like it's just synced up to my brain. Like it feels like I don't like a metronome, even if it's fast paced or exciting. It has a certain vibe that comes chill to me.
There's study music like that. It's supposed to activate like your certain brain waves, like the beta waves or something like that. I can't remember, but it sounds kind of
you like the movement of the music.
Yeah.
So when it's low, chill to hype, like it'll really affect it on what you're kind of. I think that's what you're talking about. It's like the movement. When it's all together. It's the sound effect, the music, the BPM, the way the song transitions, how it kind of takes you to a journey, kind of thing like that. Is that?
Yeah, I feel like I can really feel when someone's did a song with the intent of some kind of emotion behind it. Maybe that's just me speaking on my ass. Maybe like I could be wrong. Like for me. Something I've been wanting to look up recently is I feel like Coldplay's first album is amazing. It's like unbelievably raw, unbelievably emotional. And for all I know, maybe that was wrong. Maybe I'm wrong and there's actually a music producer behind every single one. But I think those are I feel like those are very good example of original band songs. I think I haven't looked it up. So that's a good example. That was my point.
You like Coldplay?
I love for Coldplay's first.
I fucking love Coldplay.
First
People
three
hate
albums.
me for it.
Those first three albums are killer.
Same.
Falls off a little bit for me. I really like their new album. If you listen to it,
I haven't listened to it.
It's actually pretty cool.
I'll check it out.
But damn, Parachutes, unbelievable album. Unbelievable. Like everything about it. Kind of get through my points so I don't drag on too long. That leads me to things that I really like. Moby is a huge one, obviously. Kind of going to my nowadays stuff. Moby, Childish Gambino is a huge artist for me now. I still listen to a lot. One of my favorite song. I do actually have a favorite song, which is I've narrowed it down.
You have a favorite song?
I have a favorite song.
Wow.
Out of all of them?
Of all time, without a doubt. It's a song that I can play over and over again, and you should probably know it, Salvatore.
All right, so see if you can guess.
Yeah,
it.
You should know it.
Mr. Best Friend.
Favorite song ever.
I've only posted about it. I've gushed about it.
Hold on.
Let's see how good of a best friend you
I'm
are.
trying to think of how many. Like I got. There's definitely like a list. Not the Wild Darkness one, right?
I'll give you. It's not Moby.
Okay, it's not Moby.
It's not Moby.
Surprisingly.
I'll give you one last hint. It's the song I listen with the plane.
Oh, the Grizzly Bears. 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
2 weeks by Grizzly Bear.
I hadn't heard about it in a
play
little
it.
while.
I almost keep that one reserved for myself. I don't know.
Yeah, because that's the thing that like threw me off about it. I was like, I know you have your plane takeoff song, but I didn't.
I didn't realize you
I heard
liked
you
the
play,
Grizzly Bears,
yeah.
actually.
That's my like. That's the only song I truly know. I'm not gonna give
I
myself.
remember
that
the
much
first time
credit.
you heard it, you fell back into the pool in high school listening to that. You played it on the sound system outside, and we were all swimming. You sort of just fell back.
Oh, I love that song. I love that song.
Those feelings are coming back.
That song is just.
That's a good song.
And
it's a really good song.
It's
yeah.
a song I totally don't know lyrics from. I cannot sing along, but I love every second of it.
I don't know either.
Karaoke Sal.
Oh,
What I like about that song is it's really different from when it came out. It just did it. It's like, I know a lot of people and a lot of hipsters kind of lean on it and, fuck it. Yeah,
Fuck 'em.
Fuck them.
Fuck them all.
Like, fuck the people who's like, oh, that's a hipster song. Or like people who listen to that kind of music are like Mumford & Sons. And they just compile all this
Don't
indie,
let anybody
indie
shame
alternative,
you. Yeah.
whatever. You know what I mean?
yeah.
But I do like the guy's falsetto, how he controls it and everything, and just like the structure of the song. I don't even know where the fuck he's from. That band. But
I don't want to
idea.
know. I don't want to know who he is. I don't want to know where he came from. I just
You
It
just want to experience.
It's just
happened.
very obviously to me. I think there's a lot of emotional intent behind the whole song, and there's just I love the music video is so simple. I feel again that reinforces that emotional intent. It's just
I feel like in high school we got hit with that one. Wake Up by Arcade Fire.
Yep.
And a few, I feel like there's one or two
Fire.
more all at the same time.
Dude.
Like all those songs hit us at
Here,
once.
Notes.
I can make it real safe. I can make this really easy. I have a playlist, very brief one. By the way, if you ever want to follow me on Spotify, I have some great playlists.
This guy legit has a shit ton of playlists.
He's curated a
I'm
Moby
not even,
playlist.
He's not even
Hold
the
on.
music guy.
Here, hold on. Let me. I just
I'm
want to tell you.
falling behind.
Let me. While he does that, I'm gonna figure out how many hours the Moby playlist is.
To be fair, the reason why I got playlists is I myself trained on iPods from a young age because, again, I wanted an 80s playlist. That was probably really the major thing. I wanted
That's
an
when it
80s
started.
for
playlist.
Vice City. Yeah, for Vice City.
And then I was like, wait, I can build playlists. And I continuously made playlists. And then for whatever reason, my phone, I could never save the playlist properly. So every time I got an upgrade to a new iPod or iPhone or whatever, I always had to remake them. So I've remade playlists a lot. So I never really have it doesn't slow me down.
The Art of Moby by Brandon Sala is 7 hours and 31 minutes. It has songs from every single album.
It does.
And it's not a discography. I saw through it. He
Yeah.
picked those songs.
The only ones I like.
This was intentional.
So you would say the 80s playlist is technically your first playlist ever made.
Yeah, my first
Yeah.
true playlist, yeah.
Do you have another 80s playlist?
I do. On Spotify, you can find my 80 the closest thing I have to that my original 80s playlist, which is called the 1980s. Literally it's spelled the 19 like the word and then 80s because I was just trying to be unique, but
And then
not really.
if you look up his name, Brandon Salas
Yeah.
with a Z in the end.
Disclaimer, Halloween 2019, that was me.
SALA. I'm going to delete that right now.
Oh, don't.
Yeah, delete it.
I want to keep it for next year so that I can modify it.
So to kind of wrap myself up because I know I'm going kind of long here. Basically, the easiest way for my top songs is a playlist called Stay Solace. These are songs I can listen to almost basically on repeat, and it just calms me down. It gets me back in my vibe, and it's probably my core of my favorite songs. Ironically enough, I think I even have I think I have everybody in here. So it's like Arcade Fire. I got like 3 songs by Arcade Fire: Suburban War, Everything Now, and Wake Up. Wake Up is probably my all-time favorite Arcade Fire.
Very good song.
Same kind of vibes as 2 Weeks for me. Like it hits
I
me
love
a certain way.
driving to that song as a teenager, just through like sort of open country. You know what I mean? Just that was really good.
I love Sober by Childish Gambino. While I like Childish Gambino's entire discography, that's the one song that once again leans
That's
into
my favorite song. Yeah.
It leans into the chill vibes I like. Again, the kind of
The music video?
Important.
I like Redbone because of the ennui.
Memory Gospel by Moby, my favorite Moby song, Memory Gospel. That shit chills me the hell out. Probably my least favorite song on here is Gone by Junior Jr. It just makes me happy. But I'll skip that one mostly. And then a random song for you is Edge of the Ocean by Ivy. If you listen to it, you've probably heard of it. And then All the Stars by Kendrick Lamar and SZA.
You also have don't you also have
a
a Salas in Motion playlist?
Oh yeah, I
That's a good one.
I
That's the
incorporated
work
my
song.
names into
Yeah.
a lot of playlists.
Yeah.
the Salas playlist. Check it out, guys.
Oh, yeah,
Link in the bio, or just Spotify.
Just go to Spotify.
Brandon Salas, Z in the end. Sala, SALAZ.
what he said. That's how you can find me. So let me get off because I already know I went.
Do you want to talk about
so.
like what? Oh, that was like your now. Your
yeah, that's pretty much my now. It's the
Okay.
easiest way to understand my now. I listen to a whole bunch of music. I have a huge variety.
And you do a lot of editing and things like that, so it's important that you have that.
Yeah, Mike can attest to that. I like my limits. I guess I'll briefly cover. I'm not a big fan of like intense screamo. I like some screamo elements. I definitely got into the emo phase when I was in that age, going through those years of Salvatore.
I liked some of it, but when it was too heavy on the screamo end, like Bless the Fall and stuff like that, I was like, this just sucks.
That wasn't heavy.
Oh, it wasn't? Oh, I didn't like it. I liked Chiodos and stuff where they like implemented little pieces of like screamo, but then like when it was too overpowering, I was like, fuck off. Like, I don't have time for this shit.
For me, it was I couldn't swallow that.
You fuck off.
Modern day country in general, modern day country. But I love old country. If you give me some like George Strait and Into the Past, basically anything prior to George Strait, I don't know.
Dolly Parton, man.
Hank Williams.
Dolly
Parton's really good. Did you hear her original version of "I'll Always Love You"?
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
Willie Nelson.
Willie Nelson's. I like Willie. Yeah.
Rap. I can listen to the majority of rap. I think it's just modern country and heavy screamo.
Just a heavy metal.
Yeah, heavy. Well, I guess
it's metal.
Typically, scream though. I mean, I can listen to like heavy metal.
I like metal better than screamo.
Involve. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a scream element that gets me. That's scream metal.
Hardcore.
I can even take some black metal. But it's just like when the screamo comes in, I'm like, I don't know, for some reason it loses me.
It's hardcore, I think, is what you guys are referring to.
But like for me, I mean, give me anything else, I'll pretty much be able to enjoy it.
Nice.
I even got some Bollywood songs. I mean, that's mostly because of Marzana, but I do.
Yeah. Okay. So that was a lot. No,
yeah.
I'm just joking. Oh. But no. I mean, no, you're fine. No, it's
a hard topic to do short. This episode probably will go.
Yeah, it's fine. That's okay. I think people will enjoy it. I mean, I enjoyed everything. I thought that was good. I liked listening to you. It was a really interesting insights. I don't know.
Actually, I do want to kind of just really clarify, just because I think it'll be important as we both go into. So again, for me, emotional base. That's definitely a heavy part of why I listen to music. That's the core of it, like that, be able to connect to it and just feel the energy of a song. So I just really want to clarify that so we can kind of compare and contrast all of each other.
Okay. Okay. So going into me, I remember like vividly kind of I don't know, being aware of music from a young age. I remember even like my grandpa would show me different like silent films and stuff like that, and be aware of like the soundtrack and the orchestra and kind of the and film soundtracks and things like that. I would kind of, I would always kind of be able to pick them out. You know what I mean? Like, like the James Bond theme, or I don't know, less the songs in Disney movies and like the scores from like, like Terminator, Aliens and stuff like that. I would like mouth along with them and stuff like that. I'm like, oh, it's so cool sounding. And I would just kind of be aware of the noise and the sound and kind of what it was doing. But also, my dad listened to a lot of music when I was a little kid, and so I vividly remember like sort of like David Bowie songs and like Nirvana specifically from when I was a really little kid. Like I think some of my earliest memories probably had that music, and then obviously Queen, like I mentioned, because I watched Wayne's World and there was like the great headbanging bit, and I'd heard We Will Rock You and other movies, and it kind of like all that stuff was sort of circulating around. So like I figured out which CD was the Queen one. I saw Freddie Mercury and Brian May and everybody on the cover, and I was like, oh shit, and so I would put it in the disc player and I would listen to it, and I would remember which songs were which, like the numbers, because I couldn't read yet. And so I'd listen to Bohemian Rhapsody and We Will Rock You, and and then just as a byproduct of listening to those songs and kind of having it on, I got curious about what else was on there, and so I would like switch over and listen to Another One Bites the Dust. I liked a lot too.
Oh yeah. Quick interruption.
Yeah.
I fucked up and realized my first true CD was the Pokemon first movie soundtrack, and I loved it, the shit out of it. I didn't have not had any hesitation, and that was a song from 5 years old.
Oh, nice.
So. Okay.
And I remember very vividly as well, in the similar vein, I remember very vividly hearing Heart's Filthy Lesson by David Bowie from the Outside album on the stereo, just bumping, and like kind of the weird. I remember being very aware of just the weirdness of what he was doing with the music on that song, and kind of like how it was like so attractive but so strange, and stuff like that, like really popped out at me. And then I had a similar experience too, kind of jumping ahead in time a little bit. When I was in about second grade, I was living in Buffalo up to that point. And then when I was in second grade, my dad had to do a year residency for, as a doctor. And so we went down to, or was it his fellowship? I think it must have been his fellowship, not his residency. And so we moved down to Richardson. We relocated temporarily for a year down to Richardson, Texas, which is sort of a little bit outside of Dallas. It's actually closer to Dallas than where me and Brandon grew up when we met. It's like 20 minutes north of it, maybe. Maybe even 15.
Hold on. The mic went down and you were sounding out.
Oh, no worries. But yeah, Richardson, it's really close to Dallas. And before that, actually, I think a big reason I kind of had the experience that Brandon did where I felt like my senses just bloomed was because, and I just felt more aware of everything and more in touch with everything, is because, I don't know, just being in New York, like I had my family up there and I loved them, and I was like really close with my grandparents, and luckily they would come down and visit frequently. Actually, when I think about it, they came down a lot, and so I still got to see them. But something about the weather and just like the general environment, it was very like economically depressed, and it was always like just an overcast, you know what I mean? It was very oppressive weather, and it just seemed like people were just ruder in the Northeast. Everybody's like kind of miserable, and something about it really got me. So I had like a lot of problems with like anxieties, like it was from the time I was like a little kid, you know what I mean? I'd like kind of make myself sick, and I wouldn't want to go to school, and I was just like worried about
the
all kinds
weather,
of,
you think?
I don't know if it was the weather, just the entire environment, like just like the people, the kind of like the attitudes. I don't just feel like there was like more stress and something about it.
Was
just
it like, hey kid, fuck you, kid?
Yeah, everything short of that. Well, I mean,
Okay.
I don't know if it was like how circumstantial it was or what, what played into it. But I remember, just getting in trouble a lot in school and not understanding why, and then like crying, you know what I mean? And just kind of like always like kind of being confused and just sort of like terrified. And then for whatever reason, when we moved to Texas, I felt way, way better. And it's just like the, sky was blue and it was warm, and I enjoyed my school more, even though it was even in worse area. Like
Mexican food?
Actually, that was a big part of it. Yeah, I fucking loved Mexican food. I found that out when we moved down there. I ate it. I was like, this is amazing. But we went to Papacitos near Dallas, and I fucking loved it.
Papacitos?
Yeah, I think that's what it was called. I don't know what that
Wow.
means. Yeah, it's probably super
if
white.
You say it in,
Yeah.
If you say it in Spanish, papacitos.
Papacitos?
Which is like...
What does it mean?
It just means like it's kind of like a slang term for like calling a male sexy, but it's kind of like
I believe
like
that.
daddy at the same time.
I believe
Daddy.
I believe it's like a creepy ass slang term that was poorly translated that I didn't get, but because it was probably opened by a white guy. But anyway, but yeah, no, I had my first jalapeno pepper there, and nearly like I thought it was gonna kill me. Like I just ate an entire one in one go because I was an adventurer. But yeah, just moving down there, I just felt way better. I just felt like everything bloomed. Like I was just aware of my environment. I had all kinds of trouble sleeping, specifically as a little kid in New York. Like I would just not want to go to sleep. You know what I mean? Like something about it. I would get really anxious right before bedtime and start freaking out because I had this fear that everyone else in the house would fall asleep and I'd be alone in the dark kind of all night. You know what I mean? And I'd just kind of be trapped like that sort of. And everyone else would be unconscious. If I tried to wake them up, they'd become upset because they were trying to sleep, and I would just kind of be alone in a dark house. And so I don't know, that just sort of disappeared. I just kind of forgot about it when I was in Texas. And I remember it happened once or twice while I was down there, but I was able to kind of get over it. You know what I mean? I was just way less anxious, just way happier, you know what I mean? And the weird thing is too, is like in Richardson, the school I was going to was in a way worse area. Like it was definitely like, I remember walking to school one day because my mom would walk us to school every day. My little brother, who was 4 years younger than me, would be in like a baby stroller. And then my older brother would be walking alongside us because he was going to the same elementary school. And I remember my mom finding God, it must have been, I don't know what it was exactly, but in the grass there was like a sort of rusted, it was like an inhalant, like a drug of some kind that you inhale through your nose, like not like a popper, but something kind of like that. She just saw it in the grass and she like picked it up and it's like, yeah, hey kids, so yeah, like stay away from like this kind of thing because this is definitely used as like this is like a drug. They like kind of twist it and then they inhale it and get super high. So, don't do that. It's really bad for you. And she threw it back into the grass and wiped her hands off and we kept walking. And I was like, okay, I'll watch out for that shit. But like it was definitely like a slightly worse area because it was way closer to like sort of inner city Dallas than the suburb that I was going to school up in Buffalo. But I don't know. For some reason, I was a lot happier, though, and I remember having more friends and just enjoying myself a lot more. And the music, too, really affected me. And I remember specifically my dad was listening to some newer stuff, so he got like Eminem CDs, and I heard that, like Stan, I remember hearing in the car. And just being like, what the fuck is happening? What is this? Like, why is he yelling bitch at the... Yeah, why are they...
to Eminem.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, he was listening. He was like, this is really good. This guy's actually not bad. And
Nirvana.
Yeah, and...
interesting.
I know. Yeah,
was he a young... How old was your dad? Was he young?
At that time, because he's in his early 60s now, so he was probably... He had to be... I don't believe he was in his 30s because they had me when they were... I want to say mid to later 30s, so he's probably in his 40s
like
at that
41,
time.
42.
Yeah, he's probably in his early 40s.
Damn, he was
yeah.
pretty hip then.
Yeah, he was. Yeah. He was. Because like he said, the 90s was like a missed decade for him because he was just in medical school. So like, but the thing is, he found certain like I don't know. That's like true and not true at the same time because he listened to a lot of really good 90s music. So like he was listening. He was like really up on all the grunge stuff and a lot of like sort of the great female vocalists around that time. He was listening to, you know what I mean? And there's a lot of stuff from that period that he was like really had a finger on the pulse on. Like I remember he was listening to. I think like Natalie Merchant and like, you know, he listened to Garbage and I think Sarah McLachlan and stuff like that. Not as much Sarah McLachlan. Sinead O'Connor he really liked. That was the one he really liked. But there was a lot of like music from the 90s that he was aware of, but he considers it like a lost decade because he was in medical school the whole time. And if you know anything about medical students, they're like
10 years.
Their life is a blur. Yeah, like during that whole period, they were just piled with work the entire time. They're barely sleeping, you know, but he was into a lot of stuff. And I heard Moby during that period too. And I remember, I think I mentioned this on an earlier podcast, but the album, was it hits between like 93 and 90? Oh, it's a compilation album.
Yeah, like 95 to 97, I think.
Yeah, he had that one.
93 to 97?
And he had like Go and Play, but specifically that one and the song First Cool Hive. Like when I hear that, it just takes me back to being in the back of my dad's car in Richardson, driving somewhere at night. And just hearing that song, you know, like coming back from like a store or whatever. And I swear to God, it just puts me back in that place. And it's just amazing. It's like this very tactile feeling. You know what I mean? I'm like, man, I just remember it so vividly, you know, from that. And yeah, but there was a lot of music. I was really aware of music at that time too. Because I don't know, something about it. It's like I just sort of felt like I came alive. And then the funny thing is like that was kind of a double-edged blade because when I moved back up to New York the next year, I was way more anxious and like way worse because like I was like back there, but I don't know if somehow I'd like kind of like broadened my horizons a little bit more. I don't know. And I was just kind of like miserable. And then a year or two later, we ended up moving back down to Texas because my dad got a job offer with some people that he had worked with when he was there the previous time. And they were like, hey, we kind of want you back. Like, can we convince you to do that? And I moved to Texas and I was happy again because there was sunlight.
And that's when we met.
And then me and Brandon met. Yeah. And I had friends finally. Yeah. I had a friend. I had a really good friend who introduced me to a lot of other friends. And like, I don't know, like I just sort of came alive. And, you know, during that time, I sort of had a lot of my parents' music. Like I remember listening to the Ramones and Led Zeppelin specifically. I took to like a lot of 70s stuff. David Bowie, I got more into. I kind of went in and out with him because my dad was always listening to him. But I remember getting really, I think, into his music around 7th or 8th grade, maybe, is when I really kind of focused more on it and like actively tried to listen to it. But
when did U2 start creeping in for you? Because I know that's been a big.
My dad was always listening to. Oh, you know what? It was probably about 3rd grade is when I really noticed them because my dad listened to a lot of U2 as well because he grew up with them from like the 80s on. And I remember specifically the Beautiful Day CD was kind of floating around the house, and my brother had it, listening to it on a CD player.
Joshua Tree, right?
What's up?
Is that Joshua Tree?
No. Beautiful Day was Beautiful Day. It was its own album.
Okay,
it was like that was like their late 90s one.
And then Joshua Tree was after that.
Joshua Tree was the 80s. That was like one of their classic.
Fucking, I don't know.
Yeah, but
I don't know.
Anyway, but yeah, I remember hearing that and I listened to it on my brother's CD player and stuff, and I was just like, man, this makes me feel so good, you know. But yeah, I was listening to a lot of my parents' music for like a long time. Like I remember just kind of being steeped in it because I didn't kind of try. I was not like Brandon. I wasn't like trying to resist it. Like I was actually actively like, this is really amazing, some of this. And maybe it's because my dad was listening to some stuff that was like really like that I was hearing about in school and stuff like Eminem. I don't know, maybe that like kind of changed my perception of it. But I remember I got really interested in their music, like really specifically, probably because I had met Brandon and I had friends now and I had people to kind of share it with. I remember becoming much more interested in their music and then just becoming more aware of things and wanting to have interests. I remember listening to like Led Zeppelin, which they had, you know, albums of, and, you know, I'd still listen to Queen and like, you know, David Bowie. I was kind of getting more and more into as time went on. I'm trying to think of who else around that time. Like AC/DC I listened to too. Probably Brandon helped with that. But yeah, I was kind of listening to a lot of their music, and then I did kind of start coming into my own. I don't know, 7th, 8th grade maybe.
Yeah, that was my time because that's when the 7th, 8th grade is when I made my 80s playlist.
That's when I started to try to actually seek out my own interests. I remember. I think it was either. Because I knew people in school because me and Brandon ended up going to different middle schools because my parents moved across town, and so I had other friends, and they didn't. I don't know. There was just like more. I don't know, like judgment. Like I was kind of trying to be friends with people who were more ruthless, typical kind of kids where they're like, you know, have their interests and they think you're not cool if you're not into them and stuff like that. So I was kind of trying to like figure out what people were actually listening to. So I feel like in maybe
I mean, I was like the exact opposite. I'm like I was getting made fun of because I was bonding with my English teacher over 80s music.
Oh, really?
Openly.
I mean, well, I was still listening to mine. Like that was the thing is like I would like show up to school in like my Led Zeppelin shirts and stuff like that, and I like wasn't fitting in, but I was just kind of like kept going, but just sort of like was beaten down. and then I remember I think some of my friends were into Chiodos, and I think I got into that a little bit, and that I actually kind of liked. And I think I really started to kind of open myself up to try to find actual interests of my own, maybe the summer between 8th and 9th grade. And I remember literally being on a friend's Facebook page and seeing 30 Seconds to Mars as a listed band. And it wasn't even somebody they were crazy into, because I talked to them about it later, and they're like, oh yeah, I didn't really like them that much. But I was like, that sounds like a cool band. I'm going to look them up and get into that, because that's like what kids are doing right now. And I want to fit in finally. I don't want to feel like a freak anymore. So I started.
Did you like them?
I did. Yeah, no, I got really into them for about like maybe like a year or so. I ended up, 9th grade was where it like really kind of blossomed. Well, okay, hold on. I'm getting ahead of myself here. In middle school, the interesting thing was like that's kind of when I got more into David Bowie, and that was like again still sort of my dad's interest, but I kind of like leaned into it, and I was listening to a lot of that. And the interesting thing about that was listening to Bowie. It kind of got me into different like sort of books and like works of literature and stuff, because he would kind of reference 1984. One of his albums was supposed to be a 1984 concept album, but he didn't get the rights, so he kind of skirted around it. And so I was like, oh, that's really interesting. So that actually got me into writing, catching the literary references in David Bowie's music while I was sitting in the car with my dad and he was listening to it. He would kind of explain the background to me. He's like, yeah, they were, he was trying to adapt George Orwell's 1984. And I was like, oh, that sounds really cool. And, you know, like he wrote this book and it takes place in the future, and he's kind of trying to, I don't know, make a political statement based on, I don't know, sort of like a science fiction story and problems that he sees in the world now, and project them into the future and think about like how they could get out of hand. And I was like, that's cool. And so I kind of like, that got me into like 1984. And then like, you know, around the same time, I kind of noticed A Clockwork Orange and stuff like that too. And David Bowie had all these references in his songs. So I was kind of I was like, that's really cool. So he's like a rock star and people like him and think he's interesting. And also he's like really literate. And I was like, that's interesting to me, because like, that's like, I don't know, like that means I could kind of have a power based in something that like I like, you know what I mean? That actually gets me going, you know what I mean? That kind of charges me up. Like I could actually have some agency in the world through, I don't know, literature and through ideas. Like that's actually like some people admire that. And I was like, that's really interesting. And so listening to David Bowie really kind of opened me up to that idea. And then so in
I think late eighth grade, we definitely started really developing our own music taste.
Yeah.
I feel like we started thinking like listening to the whodunit ages.
Oh yeah, that's right.
And like all the music that we're adding.
Oh yeah, that's absolutely right.
Sex Pistols were definitely becoming more prominent during that time period.
That's when I got into them, was around that time, because we had listened to we'd watched the Clerks movie too, and it had that soundtrack, and I was interested in Kevin Smith's soundtrack because he had like Bad Religion and stuff on there. So I like kind of started getting into that stuff a little bit. And was like, huh, okay. But yeah, I think it was around like 8th grade I kind of started cooking, and then 9th grade it just sort of like boiled over. Yeah.
Well, then you start having more and more freedom to actually get your own songs. I think honestly that has a huge play into it. Maybe I don't know. It's hard for me to understand because I didn't listen to the radio at all. So the idea of getting new music was like a hard thing for me to understand.
That was tough for me too. I was like, what are people listening to? I just want to like, I want to be able to like understand my peers.
Like, I couldn't like buy my own CDs or anything.
Yeah, no, I know. And then like, because 9th grade is where it really exploded. 8th grade, we were kind of beginning to wind up. And then, exactly. And YouTube helped a lot because you could just look anything up. You know what I mean? You didn't have to steal it. You could just kind of like look it up and listen to anything that somebody had mentioned and finally get the fucking reference, you know? And, but yeah, I remember around 9th grade is when I really started coming into my own and really looking for stuff. So I listened to 30 Seconds to Mars, but then I ultimately ended up getting into My Chemical Romance and liking them way, 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 way better. And finally being like, wow, Gerard Way seems like a good guy. Jared Leto seems like kind of an asshole. Like he's kind of full of himself. And so like I kind of got
ego there.
Yeah, no, way more. Yeah, and it's like clear too, even back then. And I got more into them. And then I had this phase shift too.
How did you get that? Huh? How did you get that he has high
just
ego?
watching interviews with him.
You just listen to the music.
Just the way he carried.
Just researching.
Well, no, because I would watch. Because I got the things that I got into. I would get so into them that I would like look at everything, and I watched a bunch of his interviews and stuff like that because I admired him and I wanted to be like him. I was like, this guy's cool. And then like the more I kind of like listened to him talk and saw his interviews and the way he kind of engaged with people, I was like, this guy's like really self-obsessed. It felt like
it's pretty easy to connect when you start hearing his songs and then you watch the music videos and like
his music's sort
of
he
knows he's hot shit.
Yeah,
and I do really like his songs. Like those first two albums, I don't mind listening to those occasionally. I do think there's some really good songs.
Yeah, the music is really good, but at the same time, there's something that just doesn't quite connect in the lyrics and the emotional content of the music too. Like it's good and it's catchy, but there was always this part of me that felt like it doesn't feel like it's based on lived experience so much as what he thinks people want to hear, almost to some degree, kind of mixed in with his own. I'm not saying he's completely uncreative, but I don't know, something about it felt a little cold to me. Whereas with My Chemical Romance, I was like, these guys are really experiencing and feeling this.
Comes back to the intent.
Yeah, exactly.
The intent, I feel like pours in music intent.
Well, yeah. My Chemical Romance just felt more real and genuine to me. And then halfway through ninth grade, I had this complete shift.
Wow.
What's
Did
up?
not expect that coming.
Oh, yeah. No, I had a complete shift, and I twisted completely around, and I got into punk rock.
Please don't kill Sal guys.
What's up?
Please don't kill Sal guys.
Oh, why? What's up?
My Chemical Romance.
No, I like them.
On them?
No, I didn't hate them. No, I liked them a lot. Yeah, no, I started liking them. But I had this complete shift where I got really into punk rock, and I kind of distanced myself from like the emo thing. Like it was just like I was just trying things out. It was kind of that phase where I was just trying to be different things, but like it wasn't like a contemporary trend. I wanted to be a punk rocker from the late 70s, and I thought modern trends were bullshit. And so like I got really into
the angst came in.
The angst came in heavy. Yeah, like it was like all this like just anger and like fear and sadness and all this shit that had just built up my whole life. I finally just like exploded and decided I could express myself. And I got into punk rock from the late 70s. The Sex Pistols specifically I was super into. And I listened to like The Clash, Sex Pistols, The Damned. You know what I mean? Just kind of like getting Susie and the Banshees I listened to as well. Like Sid Vicious' solo stuff is terrible, but I listened to it anyway and pretended to like it. I just kind of like made myself like it. But yeah, I listened to that for a period. I just wanted to be like a punk rocker. And then that segued me into liking Black Flag and Minor Threat and stuff like that. Dead Kennedys I listened to because like I was like I want to hear the American stuff from the 80s, and so I listened to all that stuff, and I just wanted to do like punk, like I wanted to be into punk rock, and I was like, this is fucking good. Because for me it was just like this like sort of meteoric force of expression where you just it was, the music was very simple, but there was like a political message and there was an intent. Like I liked that the music had meaning. Like I really liked that there was a purpose for it. Like it was just like this active, complete like social and creative like rebellion, you know what I mean? Like it was saying something. It was taking all these feelings that I had that were like so intense inside of me and just projecting them outward and doing something creative and constructive, but just like fuck you kind of at the same time. But however, I kind of softened up a little bit. I evened out. The rage sort of subsided some, and as a byproduct of listening to music from that period, I discovered other people who were contemporaries and who were inspired by the first wave of punk, but then started making more sophisticated music. So I discovered that Johnny Rotten from the Sex Pistols started doing Public Image Limited, which was like more of like a new wave experimental band. I listened to Joy Division, which was the big one. I really loved them. And I had been aware of them like maybe a year or two beforehand, but didn't quite get into them. And then kind of when I got into this period, it got me more interested because I was into all that 70s stuff. And then it was funny too, because those influences wrapped around and got me back into David Bowie because he was making music in that time too. And Iggy Pop, who was a punk rocker who kind of evolved through the years. And, I listened to the Stranglers and they had that song Golden Brown. I listened to like all this really interesting stuff. The Talking Heads, you know what I mean? So I kind of got really interested in that almost like art rock, post-punk movement from the 80s too, and it kind of broadened my horizons to get into punk and to be so deep into it, because then it just kind of branched out into all these other types of music.
Did you dress in all black?
I mean, I did, but when I was like kind of doing the punk rock thing, I kind of went against that, then started wearing like like punk rock band shirts and stuff like that, and then like cut my hair, and I wanted it spiked, but not in like the stupid like early mid 2000s Frosted Tips way. I wanted it to look fucked up, like I cut my own hair like Johnny Rotten or Sid Vicious used to. So yeah, and
Damn.
Yeah, no, I know. I was just fucking angry.
You dyed his hair red once?
Yeah, I did dye my hair red.
You had to dye it back?
Yeah, no, but when I was doing that, that was 10th grade. That was just after I kind of softened back up, and I decided I wanted to do the Gerard Way thing, and so I dyed my hair all black with the red in the back, and then like after 2 days, the Texas school system was like, you got to get rid of that. What are you doing? You know what I mean?
Really? The Texas school system?
Oh yeah, they wouldn't let you do that. Yeah, they wouldn't let you do that. They wouldn't let you have like facial hair. They wouldn't let you dye your hair distracting colors. Yeah, they were fascists, man. I fucking hated it. And that just fueled the music, man. But yeah, then when I got into high school too,
not here.
No, I know, right? Yeah, but I got it. Well, I mean, it's because they don't give a shit about education at all here. But
damn, we're going there, guys.
Yeah, well, I mean, they don't. The two teachers teachers don't get any fucking resources here, and then they just Yeah, sorry. Okay, sorry. Anyway, so that pivoted me into high school, and after I'd kind of gone through the punk rock phase, found my own music, destroyed everything, and then rebuilt it all up, I kind of got into like a more reasonable, even area where I was like, I found what I actually liked, and I started listening to like I discovered the weird thing is I always like go into the past and find things from all across like kind of music history and kind of cherry pick and I'll listen to things from the present too. Like I don't like purposely avoid it, but it's just I go all over the place because there's like a lot that already exists. So I was listening to in high school, just keep it short, like I started listening to like Tom Waits. I've listened to more David Bowie. I remember the soundtrack to Lost Highway I really loved. Me and Brandon listened to that and kind of bonded over it. I got into Daft Punk. I got into Godspeed You Black Emperor. You know,
Listen
stuff
to
like that.
Yeah.
Brian Eno, I got really into. You know, I was listening to his music. You know, just kind of like stuff all over the spectrum. And now, more lately, now that I'm an adult, I'm trying to think of what I listen to. Actually, let me just go into my playlist and I'll, you know, but I mean, I like a bit of everything.
Yeah, that's the thing is, I mean, I try to think of like
almost a bit of everything.
Because I got like so much.
I got into hip hop late though. I didn't get into that probably until after high school.
Oh, you like hip hop?
I do.
I wasn't sure.
No, I do.
You don't know that? I'm not surprised.
Yeah,
I never see them bumping music.
We really got to hang out outside of that.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, you're talking about how shitty our music tastes were earlier, and I was like, man, I don't know that bad. Like
that's why I was like,
we really do know.
Yeah.
It's always business with us.
It
guys.
is. No, it is. Yeah. We need to. Yeah. Let's do that.
Hey, you know what? Let's stop the podcast right now. Go get some beers.
Let's do that.
Yeah, we're gonna go out back and have sex. But yeah, no,
that escalated.
Yeah, I know. But no, in around like senior year of high school, it's kind of where I like kind of evened out and I just kind of picked from everything. I got into Johnny Cash too when I was in high school. I realized
that's where I got into Johnny
I realized
Cash.
he was really good. And I realized that country could be punk rock, and you know, I just kind of, I don't know, I just like kind of like my tastes broadened. I got into hip hop eventually. And I started
The Killers.
The Killers. Yeah, the Killers was a modern band I really liked. My Chemical Romance, you know, but there was a lot of stuff. But I mean, like
Panic at the Disco,
No.
Fall Out Boy.
Panic at the Disco and Fall Out Boy, I'm not into.
We're actually pretty picky on our emo music.
We were, yeah.
Paramore.
There's a lot of. Oh, I did like that.
I like the first CD, the black and white one.
She was worse than she was a bitch too, from what I hear.
Oh, really?
Actually, I feel like I haven't heard that.
I had a cousin who got VIP tickets and like
Jesus.
completely,
just
like
That's bad.
hi and like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. But eventually I got into, you know, hip hop. I listened to some country. Like I like the outlaw country, like Waylon Jennings and Johnny Cash and, you know, Willie Nelson and the people we mentioned before. Like, you know, like you know, and Hank Williams Jr., you know, stuff like
Hank
that.
Williams Jr. is great.
Oh, he's fucking fantastic. But yeah, listen to like a bit of everything. You know, right now, like on my playlist, just like looking at like the one that I kind of go to.
Almost a bit of everything.
Almost a bit of everything. Yeah, like right now, I really like Sturgill Simpson. He's like a really good contemporary country artist, and he's kind of.
It's true.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
I
wouldn't say that he's like he's not like a pop country artist at all. He's kind of like this like. He's really popular, but he's almost like on that like independent level. He's hard to describe. Sturgill Simpson.
He's much more of that traditional vein, really.
Yeah,
like,
but his influences are so eclectic. Like he's clearly drawing from so different kinds of music. He's not just kind of doing something that he thinks will fit the genre. And also, like the other thing too is he didn't attend the CMAs because they refused to sort of criticize the actions of Donald Trump because they didn't want to alienate their audience, basically, who are like, you know, white people in the South. And so he stood outside of the CMAs live streaming with a sign that said fascism sucks, and he had his guitar case open, and it was all donations to the NAACP. And he was just playing his guitar, taking donations, like, and you know, right in front of the CMAs. And he's like, you know, fascism is bullshit. Ask me any questions that you want, so on and so forth. It was just so
That's cool. I didn't know that.
I fucking love him.
Didn't make it in the
and
news.
he's had a couple long like interviews on Joe Rogan too. I think like 3. And he's just a really insightful, interesting guy. He talks about all the philosophy and stuff that he's read that kind of influences music, but not in like a pretentious way. He's just like a really curious, investigative kind of person who has like a lot of emotion too. And that's what I love about his. I love. In a lot of his music, he's got a lot of emotion there, but there's some strong ideas. So his lyrics, when I listen to his fucking lyrics, I have like the exact opposite thing as Brandon. Like I listen to the lyrics, and it's just like you hear the words that he's saying. It's just so powerful. You know what I mean? I'm just like, damn, that is like a really powerful idea, so well expressed, but it's like not pretentious. It's very emotional and it hits hard. Like he has this one album called The Sailor's Guide to Earth, and it's an album he wrote specifically for when his son was about to be born. And it's like a guide to living life as a human being on Earth, basically. And it's just like some of the lyrics are just so fucking beautiful. Like because he's speaking to his son. And like I remember, you know, sometimes I'll just be listening to it in the car or something and kind of catch some of it. I'll be like, oh, you know. But he's really good. But on my playlist right now, I've got Sturgill Simpson. I have Ryuichi Sakamoto, who's a great like, you know, Japanese. Like he was like a pop star in the 80s and has almost transitioned to being more of like an experimental composer, and he's done a lot of soundtracks. I've got Moby. I've got Rihanna. I listen to a little bit of Rihanna sometimes.
Yeah. No, I started in Rihanna. I got Rihanna and Beyonce in lock in like 10th grade.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
That was where I was.
And Leona Lewis.
Bleed
in Love.
I got special mentions in the 20-minute part afterwards.
Yeah, and I got Patti Smith, New Order, which I got into around the same time as Joy Division, Calvin Harris and Rihanna. Another Calvin Harris and Rihanna.
I know which song you're talking about, Jay.
Tom Waits. I got Daft Punk, David Bowie. I got John Denver. Father John Misty. I like him too. He's pretty good. Tame Impala. I like Empire of the Sun. Tears for Fears. I got some Kanye on here. It looks like pre-crazy Kanye. The Chromatics I like. Peter Gabriel, Arcade Fire, Lana Del Rey.
Oh, so much music. It's so easy to talk about this for on and on
yeah,
and on and on.
Yeah, so yeah, but yeah. I mean, just stuff like that. But I think the thing, just to wrap it up, Midge Ure. It's how's his last name pronounced? It's U-R-E. He did this version of The Man Who Sold the World. He's a great artist from that new wave period too. Anyway, and I've been listening to some German pop music sometimes too, because I was trying to like learn the language for something I was writing. So I've just kind of been immersing myself, and I'll listen to and some of it's really good. They've got some really good music.
Oh, like 99 Luftballons?
Oh yeah, and like some stuff after that, and krautrock too from like the '60s. Like it was almost like actually some of that fed into what David Bowie did on Low and Heroes and Lodger, his Berlin trilogy. It was inspired by like krautrock, and then some of like the early electronic German music like Kraftwerk and stuff like that. So yeah, I've been listening to a little bit of that. That's really interesting. But I think the thing that ultimately I like there to be an idea. I think that's the thing that really appeals to me about music. Whether it's represented in the lyrics doesn't necessarily even have to be the case, but I like that. I like the music as concept. Like I like that there's something that it's geared towards. You know what I mean? There's clearly some intention, some meaning, like with punk rock. And I realized it as I was talking about it. I don't know, like punk rock. I like the fact that it was a political statement. I don't know, it was a way in which let's face it, emotional teenage people could take all this emotion that's inside and all this angst and just kind of push it into something. You know what I mean? I loved that. Which is kind of what My Chemical Romance was to some extent too.
Concept albums.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, and I love concept albums. Yeah, like David Bowie, all concept albums basically, And that's the thing I loved about him is his music was so intellectually motivated, but yet it was so well written and there was feeling in there. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I like a really powerful idea. I like music that really adheres to some kind of concept, and that even includes stuff like Thelonious Monk. He's a jazz musician that I like, and what's his name? Oh God, I forgot his name. Coltrane.
Keep going.
But I mean, like it's like jazz. So there's like it's like all music, no words, but it's like there's still an idea there that you can pick up on, and I love that. That's my favorite thing. I do like the feeling too, though. Like I like the emotion, but I don't know. I think concept, like a creative concept that's powerfully actualized. I think that's the thing I really like about music.
Makes sense.
Yeah. And I'm sorry to have gone on there, but Mike, it's if you want to go ahead and get into your thing. I feel like I was kind of all over the place and running on.
We left about 5 minutes for Mike, so go ahead.
All right, I'll be fast.
Okay.
Yeah, we left like -20 actually.
Yeah, it's like 30 each
It'll be a long episode.
Music's a powerful subject. You know what I mean? I think our audience will agree too. It's something you can go on and on about, and people have a lot of ideas and feelings about it. So I think it's good that we do this.
Well,
and thank you for listening.
Yeah, thank you for being here. I assume.
Hearing you guys go through you guys' history, I'm picking up sources on mine. I'm like, wow, like.
Didn't even think about it.
I didn't even didn't even think about it. I noticed you guys are heavily influenced with your guys' parents and stuff, and for me, it's different, completely different. The first song that I fucked with hard, that I can record,
just like your posture and everything. I was like, holy shit.
That I can record, like one of my earliest. I fucked with this song really hard. Is what's it called? You put your left foot in. You put your
man.
It was in preschool, and I was like, I fucking love this song.
I am all about this shit.
I got a preschool song too.
What's it called?
Okay,
Hokey
Pokey.
Hokey
Pokey.
Pokey. Yeah, that was the teacher. We got lit in that class, and I kept fucking up though. Like, you know what I mean? I didn't have dance moves naturally. I was just like, shit, it was my right foot, not my left. I remember being hard on myself. Yeah, that was the first recollection of music that I really fucked with a lot. And then throughout the years, I mainly got influenced by other people. I got influenced. I always liked being with other people, getting to know people, as early as that I can remember. So if someone was into something, I'm like, oh, let me listen to that, and then now that's a part of me if I like it, and it kind of like that. So throughout, pretty much this explains that itself explains my whole journey in music. And speaking which, I grew up with 3 older cousins. Various. I have huge. I'm from a big Mexican family, and our household was like a duplex, so I had my aunts and uncles next to me with their 3 kids, and then me and my brother were in the other duplex with me and my mom, my grandma, and I was always hanging out with my cousins, hanging out with my brother and stuff. So they were into hip hop a lot, and so I naturally got into hip hop very early, and they started rapping and stuff. But before they even got there, before I skipped this, I had my oldest cousin at the duplex, whose name is Lee Lerma.
Shout out to Lee.
And he was into music a lot, and him being into it, it's kind of what got the rest of us kind of into it. Like, he wanted to learn the guitar, he had a drum set, like, and I had my uncle Jesse Lerma. He was actually a professional musician, and he was like toured and stuff, and Spanish. He's saying he has his own, made a bunch of originals and a couple of covers. But like, I have one of his early vinyls still. I was playing it the other day. But since we showed interest into the music, he kind of like influenced that. Either hook us up with a guitar, hook us up with a drum set. He was just always just like there trying to, like, if you're into it, like he'll just like, all right, here's this and here's that. So he got him a guitar and was showing him how to play, and I believe he had a drum set, but I didn't really see him play the drum set that often. But he, because of that, him learning guitar, I wanted to learn guitar, and so when he phased that out, me and my cousin Michael, he's like 3 months younger than me. Like, we're like the same fucking age and year and stuff.
Mike and Michael, I get it now.
Yeah, it's weird. We were the Mikes,
Yeah.
and odd how that happened. But he was in the guitar and I was in guitar, and we were like learning. We were like on guitar on what is it called, Guitar Tabs. I forgot what website. Guitar Tab Pro.
Oh, jeez.
And
yeah,
we're just like learning tabs, like, we're trying to one up each other, like, oh yeah, like I learned this song today, and we're just like kind of like had this like family feud. You know what I mean? Just
Salvatore and I had a bad phase.
Yeah, I did like a half-assed version of that. I got a bass when I was in high school, and I was super into Joy Division, and they had some really good bass hooks. So like, I went to the tab websites and was just like, I learned a couple songs, but like,
dude, I want to see you play bass.
It's
Ding, 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 ding,
long.
ding,
It's
ding,
yeah,
ding,
yeah,
ding, 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 ding.
dude. I can hold a tempo.
And so my first song ever, I think I said it on a previous podcast, first song I've ever played and learned was La Bamba by Richie Valens. I love that song.
It's a great song.
Till today. And when my older cousin Lee was phasing out being a musician and all that was getting like hand me down to his brothers and me, he was still into music, and he was into like old, I don't know if he got gifted a CD, but he was playing this old like I want to say 50s or 60s, I forgot what era it is, but and I just like, I heard it for the first time, I'm like, whoa, like this is amazing. One of my all-time, still today, one of my all-time favorite songs was because of that CD was playing. It was Rob Thurston, and I forget the name of the song. Rob Thurston was the artist, or like Robert Thurston or something like that. I'll check it right now. And so I was like, that's kind of like when I was thinking like there's different music, and I'm expanding, because to me, like, and growing up, oddly enough, though I do come from a Mexican household, like a lot of my family didn't really listen to Spanish music. Pretty much heard it like during parties. I just heard Spanish music during parties, like all the party hits. Like, there's this ding song, how
old is that song?
Fuck, I don't know, but like it's in every, even till today, it's in every quinceañera. You know what I mean? But yeah, everyone gets crazy with that song too. And so, like, other than I got some influence with that, I never really leaned on that. And this is a kind of like leans to cultural. What is it called when you like adapt to a culture? Assimilation.
You mean Americanized?
Yeah,
Sorry.
I was Americanized. I was I assimilated to the culture, like
that's it.
you know. So naturally, like I just wanted to be part of what my peers were a part of, and so when they weren't into these kind of Mexican music, I wasn't really a part of that either. And even though they got into it later in their life, and I got into even further later in my life, but I wasn't heavily influenced with Spanish music. For some reason, I was just like, there was like a part of me like that wanted what was going on, you know, American wise. And so it kind of it happens to every like a lot of people from what I've met. Either they go like 100% I'm leaning towards like Mexican culture, or they have like an in between, or they go American. Like I'm pretty much name it all. But anyways, but like, so after that point, that's when the hip hop phase started going, because my cousin Lee wanted to rap and started rapping. His younger brother Adrian was rapping, and I mentioned him in one of my podcasts, but I can go more in detail now. Is they were listening to like, you know, Tupac, Bone Thugs and Harmony, Biggie, and like I was a huge Bone Thugs and Harmony fan, man. Like they were my band. Like I had every song. Speaking which, LimeWire was a thing, and so I
remember.
I had to re-download everything every time I got a virus. I had
from one of the songs.
From one of the songs.
Trojan horse flutter, your computer's fucked.
Yeah, so I had a restoration CD, so just like I just restored it. So I had a restoration CD, so I listened to Brian Eno's download music.
Oh, yeah. Wait, do you mean the David Byrne like humans do album?
David Byrne.
I remember that one being on there too, and it was like, well, like human.
Yeah. That too. David Byrne was in the preset music, and with other classical, with like a Mozart classic music, and then something else. But I didn't. But we mentioned in the previous episode how Brian Eno created.
Right. You mean like the installation music?
Created the installation music, right. And so I listened to that a lot. So the startup music, well, the download music.
Yeah, download music.
And so the installation disc. So when I restarted it, I listened to that a lot. And so, but like I was, I can't even think. Let's just go with. I was into rap. Bone Thugs and Harmony was my thing. I used to burn CDs. I used to like ask every time we go to Walmart, it was like, I need some blank CDs, and got a stack of blank CDs and just
some of those blank CDs, man.
I was into like, so you guys were like into making playlists and stuff.
Oh, we made CDs.
I did, yeah, okay. For sure. I did.
Well, you
that
never
too.
mentioned it.
Because, I was gonna say,
I feel like
I was gonna mention this earlier, but does anyone else feel like that, like the iTunes like collection is almost like a family heirloom of like the 2000s? You know what I mean? Like your father would, you know, or like whoever would just kind of build up a whole.
I didn't have iTunes.
Yeah. Oh, you didn't have it? Oh, okay.
Windows Media Player.
Yeah. Yeah. All my library was on the Windows Media Player, or a file.
I had that for a while too, and then we transitioned over eventually.
Funny thing is, when I think LimeWire stopped, we were like, it was like notoriously bad.
Yeah.
Notoriously bad. And when it got to that point, we switched to FrostWire. And it's like
never even heard of that.
It looks like LimeWire, but
next level shit.
It's baby blue kind of logo instead, and it's like a frost symbol instead of a little line.
Okay.
It was FrostWire. I don't know.
It's just FrostWire, like LimeWire.
We feel like it was
Frost,
faster and less virusy. And I think the one who showed me, I had an uncle who was a sheriff's deputy. And it was fucking weird because I don't know if he was he was like ex-Marine. He was a sheriff's deputy, but he was always like stealing music, and he was always like teaching me like how to do these.
I knew somebody
steal movies illegally. Like
I never sold a movie.
So the thing is, I think he wanted me to make him a mixtape, or like he wanted some Eazy-E and Bone Thugs like mixtape. And so he did it on my computer, and he would bump his car with like "fuck the police" like while in his squad car. You know what I mean? Like it was just so
That's
funny.
cool.
Yeah.
And like, I'm curious with what he's listening to now.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Probably the same thing.
that was very amusing. And moving forward, let's see, my cousins were rapping, and I was trying to rap, but like I was insecure, didn't really want to. I wrote stuff down, but I didn't want to tell them, hey, I want to make a song, because I was insecure about what I wanted to make. And I was just insecure. I didn't feel good enough, and I felt like they were pretty talented. And I think that kind of phased out a little bit for them. And close to like 8th grade, MySpace happened, where I was a little late on it. But I had a cousin who made me a MySpace. He's like, now you have a MySpace. And so we chatted through MySpace, and then it was addicting, you know, creating your personal thing, and then listening. So MySpace played a big
That was
role.
fun.
It was
Actually,
fun.
I really liked having the profile music. It's like, this is me.
Yeah,
this is what represents
that's what I was
me.
gonna get
and then you
to.
get the whole radio. Like
Yes.
and people. Yeah.
That was like you know, you gotta
Individualism.
Yeah.
Yeah, now you had a little quick playlist to see what you're about, and that's
Yeah.
that the whole personality thing happened.
Yeah, click on Michael Brown's profile. I got another confession. Our friend Michael Brown had the same Foo Fighters song as his thing for like
God.
3 or 4 years. Like it was a long time, to the point where it like makes us laugh when we hear that song, because it's just his face with the aviator sunglasses and his like afro.
Oh God.
Yeah.
My cousin made me a MySpace, so then I was exposed to all these new talents of MySpace, and got into like the MySpace music thing, and along with my cousins also sending me music they got into. My cousin Roxy, I'm referring to one specifically, Roxy Felix. I don't know if she changed her last name. I think she listens to this podcast, so shout out to Roxy. Thank you, Roxy.
Yeah.
She kind of expanded my music interest to more the rock side, and I slowly was kind of getting into that. Me and my cousin Michael, we're always kind of phasing together. We were into hip hop and we were into rock. We're always kind of phasing together, and so he was into like Disturbed, and like AC/DC, a lot of classic stuff. Actually, I wasn't really into classic stuff as a kid.
I listened to some Disturbed in middle school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was heavily into System of a Down, and
Oh yeah, my brother had their CDs and I listened to them too. Yeah.
I fucking like I had. I stole their whole discography, bro. Like
That's
I
what the
had
album was called. You were
everything.
supposed to steal it.
Steal this album.
Yeah, right.
And so I had everything, and I was a heavy System of a Down fan.
His solo stuff wasn't as good, I thought.
Who? Serge Tankian?
Yeah.
Yeah, Serge Tankian's pretty. Is I.
Yeah.
His guitar is a little bit better. Scars on Broadway was his other band. Was pretty good. I like the political stuff. That's where I got kind of political and all that stuff
cool.
happened. Wasn't really punk music for me. For me, the punk music, I'll explain when I get there. But I kind of got into like, you know, conspiracy theories because of that. And
About what age is this?
8th grade, so about,
Okay.
you know what I mean?
Yeah. I got you.
14, 13.
What's
seventh-
conspiracy theories you
seventh-
like, bro?
Well, the
Just
whole
kidding. You don't have to answer
No,
that.
focus.
Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna I'll kind of lean on it because the System of a Down, you know, was very political. They were always talking about what happened in their Armenia, their hometown, and the drawing blanks and what specifically the Armenian genocide. And
Oh
so
yeah. That's still really controversial because a lot of people deny it. Yeah.
they were speaking up against that a lot. So other than their, you know, I kind of got into their lyrics later. I'm kind of leaning towards more of what Brandon was. I'm always into the sound and music, and then I got into the lyrics later. Once I listened to enough, I'm like, and then I actually YouTube or not YouTube, but like Google the lyrics or whatever, and then I'm like, okay. because some of the early Bone Thugs and Harmony stuff, you couldn't really tell what they're saying because they're rapping so fast, especially Busy Bone, like and some rap enthusiasts say like they had a big play to what mumble rap is, but they weren't really mumbling, they were just rapping so fast. And so that's a little different in my opinion, but you did have to look up to see what they were talking, what they were.
It was always compelling
rapping
to me that there's like a person inside of the song. Like, you know, I mean, for lack of a better way to put it, like from a young age, I remember thinking that there's like this person coming out at me, like saying something to me, you know?
One of my big impact songs that I had was Crossroads by Bone Thugs. And it's, I don't know if you guys have heard it. It's like this, like, it's like this sad song about their loved ones that died, and they had some stories, and they call it Crossroads because it's the, you know, from living to afterworld, you got the crossroads.
Yeah.
And so, that was a really impactful song, and like got me in the feels, and still does today when I listen to it. And but anyways, when I was going into the rock section, like I had like phases. I had my hip hop. The thing is, it all kind of stacked up on each other. So I listened to hip hop along the way still, but I was more
Naturally.
into. Yeah. But you know what I mean? Like, so I had phases. So once when I got into like listening to rock and stuff, System of a Down, and I think it was Roxy. She had the, I think, Hypnotize and Mesmerize album. She gave them to me by System of a Down, and I saved them, and lend them to me. I gave them back to her.
You ripped them?
But I ripped them. I didn't have to rip them. I think I had them, but I thought seeing the album art was awesome. And
yeah, I liked owning CDs. I liked the package for some reason.
But my first CD, speaking of, I need to like talk to my brother to verify, but it's between these two. It was either Nelly Dilemma when he was popping then, man. Yeah, you know, he had the little Band-Aid. You guys didn't get into it, huh?
No, but I did know.
I saw this gentleman.
I knew he was popular at the time.
Nelly Dilemma, and then I went to a White Elephant thrift store, and I just picked a CD, and I thought it was TLC. And because I had older cousins that were into like 90s R&B, and so when I hung out with them, I was influenced by that. Like they were listening to TLC and like Lauryn Hill and all that. And so I was like, oh, it's three girls, there's TLC, and I grabbed it, and it was actually In Vogue.
Oh, interesting.
Oh wait, TLC was Creep, right?
No,
that was Salt and Pepper, wasn't it? Never mind, I'm fucked up. My reference was off. Go ahead.
All Around the World, is that TLC?
Yeah, it's Beyonce.
No, never mind. Go on.
Okay.
In Vogue.
In Vogue. It was In Vogue, and I was like, and I listened to it. I'm like, wait, this is not TLC. I'm like, what the fuck? And then it was whatever. I had a little boombox. And I was like, whatever, you know, like, I kind of ignored it. But, like, you know, on a rainy day when you got nothing to do and you're bored, you just fucking fuck with shit, especially in a small town and no internet, not much technology going on at the time. So I listened to the album a couple times, and I was like, damn, this album's, like, now I really fuck with it after listening to it a couple times. And I actually feel that way today. I've had, like, new albums that are from artists that are very, like I love these artists, and I'm like, I don't know if I like that album. Like, I feel disappointed. And then I listen to it a second or third time, I'm like, damn, this album's like, okay, I see what they're saying now.
Yeah.
Like, damn. I have really bad first impressions when it comes to music. So, like, I hate to give people, like, critique when I first hear it. I'm like, I had to, like, it'd be really bad. Yeah. I'm always usually positive. Like, oh, yeah, that's cool. And then I have, like, a small little, if they want to critique. But, like, I like listening to it a couple times, and then I'm like, okay, now I can tell you. Now that I've absorbed it more, I can tell you. And so, yeah, In Vogue and Nelly, one of those two were my first album. Second, rock album, and it was around the 8th grade time when I got into MySpace music. They were really popping in MTV, I believe, or no, the VH1. I think they were like in one of those top things. They did Hawthorne Heights, and they had a music video. They were an emo band, super emo band. And so I was like, oh, I fuck with them. I thought they're gonna be the shit. So I bought the CD, and that was actually the first CD I bought was brand new, Nelly, used, in Vogue, and then second new was Hawthorne Heights. I forgot the album actually. The band's not around. Not really. You don't really know about them now. But I fuck with them hard, and then I got into emo music a lot. 30 Seconds to Mars is a little thing. My Chemical Romance, The Used. So I'm a huge The Used fan. Like, I fucking love The Used.
I listened to a little bit of them because of the My Chemical Romance. Was it Under Pressure they did together?
They covered Under Pressure, and I didn't understand when you meant that you felt like My Chemical Romance was fake.
No, I didn't mean that.
Oh,
I thought 30 Seconds to Mars was fake, and My Chemical Romance is really genuine.
Okay, I got it mixed up. I was just like, what are you talking about?
Okay, because when you were saying that they were going to kill me, I was like, what are you talking about? I'm like...
So, correction, I misheard. My Chemical Romance, I've always felt like they're genuine as fuck.
Yeah, really, truly.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
I mean, their backstory is interesting. That could be a whole thing, too.
Yeah. And so, my favorite song from My Chemical Romance is I'm Not Okay.
That's a good one.
And because I fucking relate to that so hard, like that.
I did, dude.
Alter ego
listening
thing?
to that in like 9th grade, like 100 fucking percent.
Yeah.
Like I remember there was this girl I was actually into at that time, and there was a whole. It was just fucking. It was like a high school bullshit, but she had a boyfriend too, but she was like messing around. She was like She was like leading me on. It was a whole fucking nightmare. Anyway, So
specifically the specific part that it just gets me in that song is like. No, don't trust me. I'm okay now. Trust me,
exactly.
I'm okay. And then he's like, I'm not okay.
No, I know. Fuck it. Yeah.
That's exactly
how I felt.
I feel.
I had that pivot into the punk rock thing right after that.
Inks.
So I was just like fucking.
Inks.
No, I agree.
It's real.
I had the Inks.
That's a great album. I think my favorite by them was probably Black Parade. Like I just like because I felt like they were just like fully developed. I really like the one before. My girlfriend is always like telling me she likes 3 Cheers way better, and it's like like she just can't but like Black Parade I feel like it's just I feel like
that's my jam.
I liked 3 Cheers a lot, but I feel like they fully came into their own at that point. You know what I mean? Danger Days wasn't as good. I liked it, but it wasn't as good.
Yeah.
And then the one before it, like,
they were too
still
happy.
Developing. Yeah.
That's what a friend says. Like, My Chemical Romance stopped being My Chemical Romance when they were happy.
Dude, you know a song that affected me in the same way, and it was after I was at like the tail end with this girl I was telling you about in 9th grade. You know the song that fucking got me on the same level as I'm not okay. Famous Last Words. But yeah, that song, dude, fucking just the fucking.
I remember they performed that like live on this MTV Awards on the rooftop or something.
I saw that.
They were all dressed,
Yeah.
I lean hard to like emo music, dude. I let my hair grow. School didn't give a shit.
Yeah.
And
the length they didn't care as much about, but they did care though, because I remember every now and then, especially in middle school, they cared the most. In Texas, like somebody would always say something to me, and they'd be like, "Yeah, make sure it doesn't get too long, like go below your eyebrows or something." Like, and I was like, "You guys are fucking dicks. Like, why?" Like,
that's crazy.
Yeah, I was so angry all the time.
Yeah, so The Used, Chemical Romance, all these emo bands, and I was like listening, just going through this journey of listening to these bands, and who else was it? Seosin.
I listened to them too. Did you listen to Silverstein?
Silverstein.
Yellow Card. I like the one song a lot. Ocean Avenue. I like the lot.
I like some Yellow Card, but that song's legit. And Huba Stank.
Huba Stank. The reason is.
I got into like more. I was getting into more skating and stuff. What really kind of changed is like I hung out with that same cousin named Roxy. She for a spring break on 8th grade, and I got to see her and her friends, and they were all skaters, and I kind of experienced a little bit of that city life. So I got into skating in the tail end of my 8th grade year, and then I kind of like went super hard my freshman year, which then got me exposed to more types of music. And Obviously the MySpace days were still there, and those previous bands I previously named I was still listening to, and then I was slowly exposed to hardcore music, and then I was just like boom, went super hard on it. Like I was listening to Bless the Fall, listening to Chiodos.
Chiodos I really liked though. Like, they were really
actually
good.
I got into Chiodos later.
Yeah,
I think they were a little too high pitchy for me.
Yeah, I like that. I like that shit. I fucked with it.
But I liked like the super hard like shit you guys don't like.
What was God, I'm trying to think of the one band that did Giants in the Ocean and
Bring Me the Horizon?
No, fuck them.
No, not yours. Bring
Me the Horizon was sick.
That just came out of me reflexively. I was like, fuck them.
Damn, bro.
I'll let you go. Go ahead.
Damn. And Bring Me Horizon I got into later. Oh, Devil Wears Prada. They were the fundamental like leaned on hard. Devil Wears Prada and Under Oath. Two hardcore Christian bands.
Yeah.
But I didn't give a fuck. They sounded amazing to me. And so I actually like yet again we're leaning towards more Brandon and a little bit of both you guys. I listened to the music first and I fucked with it so hard, and then I checked out the lyrics. And then once like I really liked the lyric, I just like it made it an even more greater experience. Like Writing on the Walls by Under Oath. Such a great song, structured, building, the build up in the music, the lyrics of it, and the way just everything how it goes. The lyrics obviously, and so yeah. After that, listening to a bunch of metal songs and hardcore songs, I was like, that was my shit. That was the main shit I listened to then. And I had a friend who was a punk guy. He got me into more of the punks. So he was a fundamentalist punk guy. Had the mohawk and the Liberty Spike mohawk, and had the vest with all the studs, and he did everything. Like his name is Johnny Holder.
Johnny Holder.
Johnny Holder.
Did you just make this guy up?
No, he's still out there.
I'm pretty sure that was one of the characters in Guitar Hero.
Yeah,
Johnny.
That's
Johnny Holder.
That's kind of what it sounds like. Yeah, you're dude. Yeah, you're skinny guy. I always played as that guy.
I might tag him on this episode. He's still like into that kind of shit, and
he fucks with it
I
hard.
recently reconnected with him.
Yeah,
but actually, he was the first guy who actually got me high out of weed. Oddly enough, but yeah, he he was just got me into this, little minor, Bad Brains.
Bad
Sex Pistols.
Brains. I forgot to mention them earlier.
Bad Brains is like
They're so
shit.
good.
Sex Pistols, obviously. I had a couple of Sex Pistols. The Clash, I had a couple too, that are like lean hard on, like mainly the hits, like
Just Black Flag. Black Flag.
Black Flag.
That was like my favorite hardcore band from the '80s, specifically. The early punk stuff. I like the Sex Pistols and that better, but
I think Black Flag and another band called Circle Jerk. And,
yeah, I heard them too. Yeah.
The Tendencies or something like that.
Suicidal Tendencies.
Oh
yeah. The song Institutionalized. Yeah.
I can't remember.
Just wanted a Pepsi. If you'd heard it, you'd remember.
Well, after my phase of listening to emo music, I was in Central High School. I was talking to a bunch of different people, and they listened to the same hardcore stuff, and we're all into the same thing. And that's why I met Julio my freshman year. He was into the same music we were listening to. Me and Julio were in a band, and he was a screamo singer, and he was. I was trying to make him sing the other day, and he's like, I need to practice it to pick it up again. But he was actually pretty decent. And I was playing the guitar. I didn't know shit. So moving on. And then he kicked me out. And then I stole his girlfriend. So anyways, moving on. Timeline does not fall like that. It's just, it happens.
Yeah.
And I was with this girl. The same girl.
You stole from Julio.
That's from
I
Julio.
didn't know about any of this shit.
I didn't
amazing.
realize this until like literally maybe 15 years later. Anyways. Or less, or
15 years after high school.
Since then.
Oh, okay.
and she was into interesting music because she had older sisters that were into like Murder Dolls and like Wednesday 13. So I was kind of influenced from that, and it's a bit more like it's hard to really name it like what kind of music it is. It's like rock, but you know, a lot of rockabilly people like listen to this stuff too. Even though it's not rockabilly, it's just like it kind of like people who are inside that genre of liking that music or listen to that kind of music. I feel like from all my encounters, and then I got into like Rob Zombie and that kind of style of music. Rob Zombie, Murder Dolls, Wednesday 13, and a few others. And at the same time, I was into like electronic music, you know, dubstep, Justice. Got into trance, so like Tiesto. I think Armin van Hel, something like that. Armin van something is another trance guy. And but yeah, and then so getting into, she was into like raving and stuff, so I was like into like going to raves and stuff and listening to that kind of music and dance music for the most part, electronic dance music. And I got into like hard style and jump style and just all these sorts of type of genres, all UK based. Really got into the like underground dance UK scene. And so, you know, this hard style it's like what people nowadays call shuffling. And over there it's no more as hard style, and it's, you know, when you do like that sliding dance, when you kick the forward slide, it's almost like moonwalking, but it's really fast tempo, like boom 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 boom. That's kind of, and so one of my all-time favorite DJs of hardstyle is Headhunters, and they're pretty tight. And another one was for jump style would be Scooter. I learned how to hardstyle. It was a little difficult, but I got into more jump style myself, and I can still actually jump style. I never really dance for you guys, but I kind of hold it. You gotta get a couple drinks in me for that to come out.
You hold it inside.
I'm gonna
play
get you drunk.
You play it close to the chest, and you bust out your secret weapon.
The only ones who actually, the only ones who've seen me actually like do jump style, is Julio and Tanya when we went out dancing with them. And when I first fucking met Tanya too, Julio's lady friend, you know what I mean? And
oh, I know what you mean.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah. And so we were at the Crescent, and they were just playing like dance music, and I was just fucking like, tequila was in my body and it makes me feel happy. And but anyways, I was into dance music. I was into, and by my freshman year, I was living with my uncle. My uncle was heavily into 80s music, and so that's how I got my 80s music in me. You know, I got like my current all-time favorite. It's hard to play between two, but like "Careless Whisper" by.
Oh yeah, I was just playing that the other day. George Michael.
Song. Yeah. George Michael.
Did you ever hear the Seether version?
No, I
fuck
haven't.
That guy.
No,
Fuck
it's not
bro.
good. I'm just saying it's like hilarious that they did a version of that song. Yeah, it's like
I like listened to the first 10 seconds.
Yeah.
And I hit X.
Oh, it's I mean, it's like exactly what you think it would be. It's just amazing to me that it happened. I was like, this is so fucking weird.
Yo, so I got my influence from him because he wasn't technologically advanced, so he always had me download music for him for when he go to the gym and put it on his iPod, and he would just give me his name. So I had all these songs saved. And so I listened to him, and so
Never Gonna Dance Again, Guilty Feet,
oh
Got
my
No
God.
Rhythm.
Yeah, George Michael
It's easy to
and Take on Me by Aha.
By Aha. Oh, Aha.
Those two are like my one of my most favorite 80s for me, and so I was getting all to just heavily influenced, just boom, 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 just like I was always learning. I always wanted to know what every time I get to know someone, the first thing I want to know is what kind of music I listen to, and then I'll listen to it, and it gets me to know that person a lot better. This is what I was saying in the beginning of the episode. and I'm like super like that's what I love doing. I mean, my extroverted personality really likes to get to know people, but like I like using music as a tool to relate to someone or to get to know someone. And so along that process, I got to like be overwhelmed with all this music, especially in Phoenix, being a part of a big city and being so diverse. You get exposed to all this new random stuff throughout the journey. And those are the key things I got into. I think I got into like honestly I forgot how I got into like hardstyle and jump style, because that was actually more my fruition that I've discovered myself via YouTube, or I think it was like one of those YouTube videos where you see people like dancing like
So-
those goth, you know what I mean?
Do you feel like it's almost more of like a social, like it's like there's a very big social component for you?
Yeah, well, music, yeah.
Yeah, because it's
Yeah.
like you share it with other people that are close to you, and then also like with was it you said jump style, hard style?
Yeah.
It's like you're like, I don't know, in a weird way communicating with UK style music that you can't interact with, but you can kind of take their music and get to know them a little bit better through it, you know?
I get to know the kind of like subculture of how the raves were out there. So I was really into like raving and stuff, and I had like candy and whatnot. Like I was full on. I was full on.
Okay.
And I mean, you guys know what that is, right? The bracelets.
Yeah.
I do,
Okay.
yeah.
So yeah, I was really into that, and so you know, along the curiosity of me of being into it, just got introduced to all the UK stuff, because I knew a lot of the great artists of like electronic music came out of there. I mean, a lot of good artists in general came out of there. After that phase, I got into dubstep, and got into like before it started blowing up like crazy. I had a friend who introduced me to this underground UK group called Digital Mystics. His name is Nathan. Nathan's I know his last name. Graham. Nathan Graham. Shout out to Nathan Graham. He showed me Digital Mystics and their whole crew. They have a crew of DJs. Put my phone here. And Mala, he was part of it. He's like my most favorable one. But they made like underground dubstep. Like if I would play you them, it wouldn't sound like what you guys think what dubstep is. And you guys heard of XXXTentacion?
Yeah.
Yeah, I do know
That's
that.
that one song that he blew up on. I think, what is it called? It's that one song he blew up, and the video was weird. There's like kids stuff involved. It's Look at Me. You guys
I
know
know
that
that song,
song?
I know the band,
Look at
the
me.
group name,
Look
the
at me.
artist name.
They go dun-dun-dun. Well, he sampled one of the Digital Mystic songs.
Oh, cool.
I kind of was a little pissed because I was like who the you know like you don't know this shit, like who the, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I got a little personal, and and then I was that's when I received my first laptop, which was a 2009 MacBook Pro, and that got into music progression, and I started making electronic music. That's what I was into, just playing in GarageBand, and hence now I'm here doing this stuff. But yeah, I got into that in the previous episode on like creativity.
So the creative process.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
creative process episode
Creative Methods, I believe it was.
or something like that.
You get that. If you know the concepts, you probably find the episode. Yeah.
And not to go into like the music making side, but heavily influenced from all the music I was listening to. Sigurosh. That's when I got into Sigurosh and another Islamic band, MUM, MUM.
Oh, I know them. Yeah.
Yeah, they're pretty good. And I mean, that's when I got into like more foreign music at that time, and I was like really into like the sound of it, how like his emotion bled through this music, even though I don't know what he was saying. And Sigurosh actually has an album called the Untitled Album, and in the entire thing he's singing, but there's no words.
Yeah.
There's no words, and every single song is like Untitled 1, Untitled 2, Untitled 3, Untitled 4, and it's him just singing. It's all music. and it's called The Untitled album. Really, one of my all-time favorite albums.
I done listen to that.
I wanna get it in vinyl. The vinyls look sick. It's like clear with black and white splatter on it. It's like $300 on eBay though.
Damn.
After that, I just kind of got into like everything new and old. You know, I just, you know, I went to the depths of the internet and listened and consumed to everything. I left a lot of great names out there, and Gorillaz would be one of them. I have one of their vinyls.
I feel like you gotta give a little shout out to your K music love.
Who?
Your K-pop love.
Oh, okay. So that's more recently. Okay, so me and Danny we're into like Korean dramas or something.
K-drama.
Yeah, and one of her friends was Korean. We were in California at the time, and she introduced us to this. And she actually recommended an artist. I think it was Jay Park and who else? Fuck, I forgot his name. But it was like an R&B. I'll remember in a second. But Jay Park, and so Danny was listening to him, and then through Danny, she was into it, and she was playing it when I was around, and I was like, ooh, what is that? And then we got into K-pop. We started off in K-hip hop first before K-pop was a thing, and it was referred to K-pop, and so I was listening to like mainly Korean hip hop. I just called it like, I don't even know what to call it, but I got into K-pop a lot later. I was really into like Jay Park, his Doc too, but he's in Korean it's pronounced Doki. And to bring it up to the now, that's kind of why I listen to everything, guys. There's nothing that no one has this on me. I listen to everything. Throw me a song, I'll listen to it.
You listen to noise music?
Noise
Music. Well, I'll show you.
Do you not know what that is?
Noise music?
Yeah.
I don't know what the fuck that is.
I'll show you an example. That's pretty funny.
Damn! Wow.
I'll show you an
Holy
example
shit!
of that.
I didn't think he was actually gonna have you there. Yeah.
Noise music.
Yeah.
It's like we'll get into it.
Okay,
Afterwards. We'll get it in.
That's afterwards. But so BTS recently came out with a new album. It's pretty the shit. My go-to songs for that album is UH or UGH, and that's a fucking good song. And another shout out Lana Del Rey. I like her opening song for Norman fucking Rockwell, and her last song. Those are like one of like solid songs that I really like. Also, what else am I listening to? Through Julio, get into My Chemical Brothers or The Chemical Brothers. I mentioned this on the other podcast. Gotta keep on. They won a Grammy. Got to keep on. Gotta keep on. And then obviously Dead Mouse. I left them out in the bag, but I still have them right now. I just recently liked one of their old songs. Going through my likes in my Spotify here. M83, Midnight City.
Of course, classic.
And then Nariaki Oboku, and then with Black, and it's called Gaia. I don't know.
Gaia?
Gaia.
I think it's Gaia.
Dude, that song is sick. And what else? Bass Nectar, Other Words, and pretty much Distant Decay, the song named Convent, another good song, Willow, Female Energy Part 2, sick song, and oh shit, I'm starting that song.
Oh, copyright.
No, it's not long enough. That's pretty much gonna be. I mean, I'll make a playlist. You guys just listen.
Yeah, the thing is, you have to make a. I was gonna mention that. You should share all our Spotify's. We'll link them in the Yeah, we'll link them in the description. The thing is, you need to make a playlist, otherwise people can't see it because you can't see a like song.
Yeah.
list.
I'm gonna actually make a playlist of all of my like songs 'cause it's the most diverse playlist, and I think, and so like you get a taste of what I
It doesn't have noise music, but okay.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
fuck you guys. Yeah, you can find. I think if you Google my name, Mike Villarreal, spelled Mike space Villarreal, you can find me there. And I have a picture of me standing in front of the Queen Mary. That'll be me.
This actually will give me a quick opportunity to bring up something that I needed to really mention earlier because I really believe fundamentally that there's this set the stage foundationally for my music in general. So there was this one artist I wouldn't be able to tell you the name until a few years later, but when I was like 3, 4, 5, and running around in a t-shirt and underwear kind of like thing. When my mom would be in this cleaning mode, I always remember it very specifically this way. I made a whole short film about this shit. That's how powerful it was to me. She'd open all the windows and like I remember that like the dust coming off the blinds and the sunlight, and she would turn on this one album and it would be Orinoco Flow. It'd be Enya. Nice. And I feel like that gave me the fundamental foundation of why I like that sort of more slower cerebral music because I thought that shit was just so beautiful. And I had no words for it. I didn't. Again, this is like when I was like still kind of being weird about music, and I was like, I remember it just impacted me insanely. And again, that emotional connection to that song, that very chill, the emotional connection and intent are huge for me. It's the reason why I like Johnny Cash. I think he means the words he says, and I mean that he truly feels it. That's why I like him. And
I think so.
Through and through, that's my big thing when it comes to music is that emotion. So, and truly was the foundation. I think
Emotions.
I
feel you.
Touch your emotion. I can feel your heart beating in your shoulder.
And then yours, Sal?
Mine was definitely ideas. I think
concepts. You said
ideas concepts and ideas. Yeah, I mean, I like emotion a lot too, for sure. Because that's definitely a part of it. But no, I really like when the song has meaning, like when there's like when it's driven by meaning. I feel like with punk rock or like the lyrics,
meaning.
Yeah, like I think that's like my favorite part. Like David Bowie's a great example. Everything he did was a concept, basically. You know what I mean? Everything was a transformation of a character. There was a story. You know what I mean? There was a theme. You know what I mean? He was trying to express like a bigger idea through his work. And when I discovered that you could do that, I thought that was amazing. Like the Dead Kennedys are a really good example of it in the punk rock that I was listening to in the 80s, because or not in the 80s, but from the 80s, because like every song has they had these songs with these crazy titles like Kill the Poor, and it wasn't about actually murdering the poor. It was about how the US government had built a neutron bomb, and so the only application they could possibly see for it was that they would drop it on poor populations, clear out the entire area, and then move in and start building, you know what I mean? Basically to remove like all the poor, so that to me was like double edged, because it's like, they said one thing, but it was actually of like a satirical nature, you know what I mean? And they were trying to express something bigger, the Reagan administration basically doesn't, the government and business doesn't care about poor people, you know what I mean? They would rather just wipe them out and stuff like that. Police Truck was the same thing. It was about basically cops just going around town just beating the shit out of people and just doing all sorts of horrible shit, and anyway, that's I think ideas, concepts for sure.
All right, for mine, I think about mine a lot because it's ever changing. I'm really into the feeling. It kind of really depends on what mood, because I'm into the feeling, but I'm also really into knowledge. I feel like music gives you a sort of knowledge that you don't have, especially when when you hear something new. It's like your brain is connecting these things. You're like, whoa, like this is an experience. So that's my first take, is knowledge, experience, and the feeling. And then my second take would be going more in depth into learning the behind the song, behind the artist, why they did this, why they say that. That would be my second, and that would be like more of the like artists I follow more. So I kind of lean towards more of the experience and sound. I kind of relate to Brandon a lot, that I don't really listen to lyrics that often, but once I get that song where like I fuck with this song, then I really am more involved with it.
Yeah.
Look up the lyrics and understand it. Look, who's this artist, where they from, and I get a kind of idea with all that.
Yeah.
And, when you listen to foreign music too, you like get knowledge, and that's the knowledge behind that. Get the kind of culture and stuff.
It's interesting you said all that. I feel like we'll kind of see a similar pattern for me when we talk about movies and for when Salvatore when he talks about literature.
Well, I like the social element too of all these things, like sharing even movies and literature and video games, why not too, with people. I know that element of connecting with someone else, because what you're describing, like my biggest memories about the music that I was into and how it influenced me, and like I was thinking about it a little bit later after I said my piece, was like the thing that stands out the most is being with my dad and him imparting something that he found and loved and giving it to me, you know what I mean, and just kind of spending that quality time together. I remember because he was a doctor obviously, and so when we were in New York and I was really young, like kindergarten, first grade. I remember one of my favorite things, like one of my most exciting things, because he was working a lot at that time and I didn't see as much of him, is when I would wake up extra early. Like if I would like just happen, it was like almost like a miracle. Like, I couldn't control it, but if I would just wake up at like 5 a.m. and go downstairs, my dad would be getting ready and he would always be sitting in front of the TV watching VH1 and have the music videos would be on, and we would watch those together and we would share the music. And then the stories and the videos. So we saw the Christopher Walken Weapon of Choice. We saw, I think, Ditto, the It's Not So Bad video.
Oh, yeah.
The daughter's being taken away. Yeah. And like we just saw like all this stuff. And like, Red Hot Chili Peppers when they did the video game one. And it was just watching these small bite-sized concepts, these small bite-sized like film stories, you know what I mean? And then seeing the music attached to it. It was just like, but I shared that with my dad. And then years later when I saw more of him, when his hours became more reasonable in Texas when we moved down there permanently. I met Brandon and everything. I remember just being in the car with him a lot because he would drive me to Brandon's house and we would go to the bookstore, to the art museum and stuff together. And we would just be in the car together and he would, be sharing his music with me just as a byproduct of listening to it while he was driving me wherever. And I would ask about it and I'd be like, this is really cool and I like this. And sometimes I would bring 30 Seconds to Mars or My Chemical Romance and he would listen to that with me and he'd be like, I like it, for this reason, or I don't like it for this reason. You know what I mean? So we had things that we bonded that way.
There's, and you guys speaking about it, I just like, there's so much that I left behind. Like that's why I felt like I had to name every song or every it's just like I feel like there's a part of me, that social thing that you're talking about, that I feel like I'm gonna get judged if I leave someone out. You know what I mean? Like oh, you forgot about blah 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 blah. I'm like I did, kill me. But
that's how I felt when you were talking, because you mentioned every single person, and so if it was like the same kind of music that I liked, I was like, oh fuck them too, Yeah.
And then there's so much I didn't cover in my high school era too, like because again that was definitely where I leaned a little bit more into pop, like finding pop, my own kind of pop that I liked for the first time, and it's impossible to cover it all.
Yeah.
It's just what comes to mind.
Like,
every time you mention pop in high school, it's always what I think.
Bleeding Love. Again.
Oh gosh.
Halo.
Call Me Maybe. Fuck, I love that.
Black Eyed Peas. The one.
Oh my god.
That was like
tonight's gonna be a good night, or yeah.
Tonight's gonna be
that fucking. I fucked with that. When I hear that, it almost makes me cry. Honestly, like hearing it now.
Right now,
because I think back, not cry, but like I think back of being like a teenager. I remember being in high school. I remember not having any worries and just being with my friends and being like creative without any pressure.
And it's sad. I think it's a sad song.
Yeah, it is.
Because it's a desperate. We can get the theory.
Desperate Peter.
It's a desperate want for that feeling of party and happiness.
Yeah,
like it's
drank.
Like, yeah,
Mazel tov. Yeah. But I just remember, I remember like stuff like that. It's funny.
T-Pain, you guys get into T-Pain?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, a little bit.
I probably listened more than he did.
Yeah, not much.
I hated him at first.
I heard the Lonely Island song.
And then I liked him.
T-Pain.
Yeah.
The Smiths.
Oh fuck yeah, bro. Yeah.
We should wrap up.
Okay. Well,
this is our longest episode by far, and it's gonna be a tough.
We're gonna do some edits.
It's hard to cut. It's hard to
cut passion.
It's hard to stop.
It's hard to cut passion.
We're just gonna put Mike in his own episode.
As you can see, this has been our music appreciation episode. We love music. We have a lot. This is a very emotional.
Check out
sentimental
our
tie to
Spotify.
it.
They'll be linked in the description.
Yeah. I'll make some playlists for you guys to hear, especially if I remember to. And
Spotify sponsor us.
Should we make like a 21CU playlist or something?
Yeah, we could do that.
Yeah. Actually, let's do that.
Ooh,
actually, that'd be great.
Kind of all the shit we talked about.
Can we add playlists to our podcast page? And we could do like Salvatore's playlist, Mike's playlist.
We'll figure that stuff out in the details.
Okay, all right, great.
Check out our link in the description.
So check us out on Instagram, 21st Century Underground. We got the 21st Century Underground podcast on Facebook. Be sure to follow us. We'll have all this stuff linked on YouTube and on Spotify.
Hashtag 21CU.
Yeah, hashtag 21CU. And thank you for spending this time with us. I mean, I hope, guys. And as always, we will be next week with another thrilling installment.
Where can they find you, Salvatore?
You can find me at the Neon Codex on Instagram.
You can find me at the Samsara Studios on Instagram.
You can find me on Instagram at Mike Vivace. Pretty much it right now.
Yeah.
But you guys, leave us a comment if you're on YouTube. Let us know what you guys relate to with the most and music taste and also music journey.
What was your first CD?
Tell us that shit.
Mom,
yeah.
I'm not going to believe that you listened to this if you don't put your first CD down, okay?
Actually,
verse
yeah,
vinyl.
I also won't believe. Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
You got a request?
What request?
I requested to leave him a comment.
First vinyl.
What's your request?
Oh, fuck.
Be generic.
You know what? Yeah, okay. Your most embarrassing guilty pleasure song. Leave that in the comments. Put that in there. Put that shit in there.
Put that Mike. He's angry with you.
Yeah, no.
Beyonce's I'm not a girl.
I listen to Rihanna a lot. I wish I were a boy.
I wish I was a boy.
I listen to Rihanna all the time when I run, but I wouldn't even call that a guilty pleasure. I have no shame about that.
Yeah, I feel like as a kid I had guilty pleasure, but now
you give so many fewer shits now that I'm older.
Yeah,
and through the power of Spotify. Anyways.
I think Sia Elastic Heart is kind of a little bit of a guilty pleasure, and Carly Rae Jepsen.
Well, if you're gonna go that route, I'll go Umbrella by Rihanna. I mean, even though I'm not whatever. Jay-Z produced it back in the day.
But Sia wrote it.
Yeah, Sia wrote it.
Yeah. That's her,
yeah, she did. That's right. Yeah. Okay, yeah, I remember that now.
Well, that was fun.
Yeah, this is a good one. Yeah, I had fun, guys. I hope you did too.
Thank you for making it to the end.
Come back next week. We want to express our passion. We want to share it with you. We want you guys to come back at us socially because that's what the shit is. And we'll see you next week. Bye, guys.
Thank you.